What's up, everybody? Welcome to PSI Love You XOXO episode 62. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the future class of video games, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Greg, what's a game that has a good crunch sound when you bite into food?
Don't even fucking try to start it like it's a fresh idea. Right before we went live, ladies and gentlemen, Barrett bit into a purple Dorito. And let me tell you, I had to stop. We were talking about other stuff. I had to stop it all and be like, Barrett, that is like a sound effect you would pay for.
And
it
let
sounded
us
so
be
good.
clear.
Can you do it again? Can you do
the Dorito was not actually purple. It's just the purple flavor.
It's from the purple bag. Because I caught that too. I was like, a purple Dorito?
If you want to know how behind I am of my Doritos, I thought they were making purple Doritos. I was like, all right. You see,
the purple bag
Dorito.
Is fire.
All right. Hold on. You ready?
Because wait, the purple bag, is that the chili one?
Pressure. Now I feel
I know. You can do it. You can do it, though. Helen, clear comms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
won't lie. The first one was better, but that's still really good.
That was still a really good one.
The natural one, the one that
you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's always going to be.
But
better.
it was so good that I was like, that sounds like in Fallout when you just eat whatever instant mash or whatever the hell it is to get your health back up.
That was also
which
like
then
a
began a
weirdly
conversation.
shaped Dorito, so it was like I had to get like around some stuff, so I couldn't get like that,
Sure. No, it's and this is, don't worry, this isn't
was it the one where
very
like
much on the Dorito?
The Dorito kind of loops around on itself.
Yeah,
You get like that double.
It's hard to make a classic crunch sound with it because you're just so worried about the shape and stuff,
But then this led into the conversation of what about good sound?
Because when you mentioned that he sounded like a sound effect, what came to my mind immediately was Dishonored. And I don't know if this is factual or if I'm just making stuff up in my head. I remember Dishonored, maybe it was Dishonored 2, having a good crunch sound when you bite into an apple.
Barrett, Dishonored has a really good crunch sound, right? And I'm like,
and Barrett's like,
and I had to respond. Like,
is there a way we can look this
up? I've never played a video game and thought about like the sound of you eating food. I'm sorry. And then Greg was like, all right, we got to start the show. And that's
this is too good a conversation because this is one of those things I think that I love about our medium of choice here, our hobby, our passion, right? Is that everybody goes and plays video games, and we could all play Last of Us Part 2 and walk out and have long conversations about Ellie's decisions inside of the game and this, that, and the other. But then for the little things that stand out to people when they play video games, like that, what was it? Somebody, I think, over the weekend started playing Avengers for the first time on my Twitter feed, and they were talking about how, like, I'm having a great time, but I have a pet peeve, and I hate seeing damage numbers pop up in single-player campaigns. And I was like, oh, like, it's really so interesting. Like, and, like, that sound effect is so fucking Fallout, right? It's like, boom, like, that takes me right back to that place of hitting the instant match or rad roach or whatever and hearing the sound effect. And I love that, like, everybody can play games and have their own little things like that.
I just want to bring
New
up,
Vegas over the weekend
on the fact that the purple bag is spicy sweet chili Doritos.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. That's my favorite one.
They're the
I was
top tier
obsessed
Doritos.
in high school.
The corner store has
that flavor.
The corner store has the 3D Doritos, and I look at them every so often, and I'm like, I like a good 3D Dorito. I haven't had them in years. Well, actually, that's not true. I guess I had them with Cyberpunk, but I hadn't thought I had it before then in years.
No.
I want to let you know I went down this rabbit hole. I googled Dishonored Apple, Dishonored Crunch sound. I'm trying my hardest to see if I can find this sound effect. But I have confirmed to myself though that there are food items that definitely heal your health that include apples. So I'm not making this up out of nowhere. And so I'm gonna see if I can find.
I mean, like you ate food to get health, but like again, I wasn't like thinking about like, oh man, that's a really realistic sounding bite into an apple.
I mean, that wasn't a thought for me. It was just a thought. It was one of those ones where you internalize it subconsciously. That now when it's brought up in context, I'm like, oh yeah, Dishonored was a game that had a good, like a good crunch.
You subconsciously internalize very different things than I do. I would say.
So here's what I'm tweeting. Yo, send me a video clip of the Dishonored sound effect for eating. Hashtag this will make sense later. Hashtag PSI, the abbreviation for PSI.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. We'll get it. Somebody before the end of the show help. Someone will rally to our cause here. And
are there any other games with good crunches? Because those are the two I think of, Fallout and Dishonored. It's hard for me to think off the top of other games that come to mind for a good crunch. Though I know they're out there.
Well, yeah, but it's like a thing of like what I would have never said it Dishonored. Now, granted, I only played I don't know, a total of 6 hours probably of Dishonored, so it's not like I have like locked in memories. So I think that's the brilliance of it is everybody has their own thing of what using this thing does. Yeah. Because if you want another one for me, and this is video games, but it's also movies and it's also cartoons. You want this one? And it will be incredibly hard. There was a video game known as, it was on PC back in the day when I was a kid. We got it at Comp USA or whatever. And it was Spider-Man the Animated Series. And what it did is let you make your own scenes. And like, it was, for what it was at the time, like pretty advanced, right? Where like they had Spider-Man swinging, they had Spider-Man moving his arms, they had Spider-Man throwing a punch, the villain's getting hit, and they had sound effects that you could put in there, right? And so you could make out your own little scenes, your own little, and not full-blown episodes, obviously, and very rudimentary, right? But it was cool for storytelling, and for me, I would just fuck around for hours making Spider-Man stuff. But they had a sound effect in there for the police radio it's a female officer going, 105, 62, 162. And that's a bad impression of it, but I used it so much in Spider-Man that to this day, I hear that stock footage sound effect in everything. If there's a cop and if they're getting out of the car, there's a high likelihood you're going to hear 105, 62, no, North Avenue 62. This like same little sound effect they do all the time. It's fucking crazy. Like, oh my God, like somebody, it's like the Wilhelm scream. Yeah. Somebody made this and then put it into
perfected this thing. And now
put it into whatever suite you do, and now it's everywhere. Everyone uses that.
That's funny because the Beyond for Beyond, I remember Alexio having me edit out swears with like the cat meow. And there's like this very specific cat meow that we would use. And I sort of got ever since then, I've heard that specific like sound bite in so many different shows when they're like, oh, there's like a cat like off screen. Yeah, it's so weird.
I know I have something that is exactly what you guys are talking about, but I can't think of what the sound effect is. But I remember having the same thought of, man, this fucking same sound effect is in every single thing. Like they perfected it, but I can't think of what it is.
Well, luckily we have more PS I Love You to do today, so maybe you'll think of it, and if not, maybe next week, and maybe 30 weeks from now you'll get it. What I want you to know right now...
that was good.
What I want you to know is I don't have a video yet for you, but I do have Ben Satterwhite here in my responses going, it is so good. So... right there, the eating noise from Dishonored has been confirmed to be good. I don't know if you were concerned about that, but I wanted you to know.
I was pretty sure, but I also there could have been that small percentage of.
Well, it still feels good, right, to have that thing that you connect with somebody else on. You know what I mean?
Like I remember it, and hopefully somebody else remembers it, and so I appreciate that person. Also, I did put out my own tweet that was what are video games with good crunch sounds as in eating? Somebody wrote back with Minecraft.
Sure.
I don't know if that rings a bell for you.
I always think of it more of a scarf. It's like scarf. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have I don't think the crunch to it as much.
Okay. And a few people wrote back with Fable also. I've not played Fable, so I don't.
Fable I played so long ago. Yeah, it just doesn't.
Do you remember
resonate.
The crunch sound of that one?
No, I don't remember that. I remember the fart sound. You know what I mean? That was a big part of Fable.
Do you remember crunching things in Breath of the Wild?
No, I remember the cooking game and the noise for all that. That was more
I don't remember crunching things, but somebody did write back with that also.
I feel like that's another like scarfing because like when you're eating apples and stuff, you just see that in the menu, right? And I feel like that like at least visually, I see Link like scarfing it down.
Yeah, he like scarfs it down for sure.
So I don't know if it's a good crunch.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is PS I Love You XOXO. It's Kind of Funny's PlayStation show each and every week. Barrett, Blessing, and I come together to nerd out about all things PlayStation. If you like that, you can head over to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where, of course, you can support the show, the company, and your friends. I don't know. I ran out of a third one there for you. Of course, you can go over there. You can be part of the show with your questions, comments, concerns, everything under the PlayStation sun. Of course, over on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, you can get your name read on the show. You can get the show ad free. You can get it with the exclusive post show we do each and every episode. And of course, you could be watching live just like the Lou is, my dog Nick96 is, Demetrius is, Rolos Racer is. Of course, if you have no bucks toss our way, though, it's no big deal. There's a new episode of PS I Love You XOXO posted each and every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every weekday. Oh, there it is. Jen moved a bunch of plants around, so I'm not as encroached by plants anymore, so I had more space to move all my garbage out. So my Thor hammer was away each and every Tuesday.
There it is.
Around the globe, whatever it is. I got it. Whatever. It's in the rhythm. I'm going to refresh over here. Do we have any more? Did anybody make me No, still no video yet of Dishonored yet. You know what I mean?
I want to let you know right now, I'm listening to a video of Breath of the Wild. I'm waiting. This video is called Breath of the Wild Unedited, eating 108 acorns in a row. And I'm very excited for when he starts scarfing these things down.
He hasn't even started yet. How long is the intro? Are you still on the quip ad, or what is going on?
Okay, I'm there now. Oh, so he does have a crunch. He does have a crunch to it. Basically,
but it's not good enough for you to remember. I mean, how many hours of Breath of the Wild did you play? You know what I mean? You don't remember
a lot. Yeah, no, this is not good enough.
That was a good pregnant pause. That was a good pregnant. Definitely some people looked at their phone on that.
Somebody looked at their phone and was like, "What the fuck?"
And then they got a call. Don't look at your phone while you're driving. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Don't do it. You see the numbers going, you think something's wrong. Nothing was wrong. Everything is okay. Here we go. I like this. This is when we talk about Kind of Funny best friends and the initiative they have. I'm talking about Ryan Hayes, who in the live chat says, "I had to re-download Dishonored. I'm gonna get that video in a bit." We are getting to this fucking crunch by the end of this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Who Bander SN says Yoshi eating fruit is a fun sound. Ba-dum.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I mean, that's not the crunch we're looking for, but that is an iconic sound.
It's an eating sound, though. You know what I mean? It is. It takes me back.
I mean, it's not a regular eating sound.
We started this conversation with crunch sounds, not eating.
You're right.
Yeah, and that's a specifically Yoshi sound. You know, like I'm talking about something that you hear that sounds ubiquitous. Oh, that could be in any game, but this game did it so well that I had to shout it out. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, and also it's Ray, not Ryan. I read too fast. And these, whatever. Anyways, housekeeping for you. Ray Hayes is on the case. Housekeeping for you. The Snyder Cut in review is finally done. And if you combine both parts, it's longer than Zack Snyder's Justice League. You can go to youtube.com/kindafunny to see us rank it alongside the rest of the DCEU. And in that second half, watch Kevin just have a breakdown. Just lose his mind. It's pretty great. You get that youtube.com/kindafunny. You can get it on podcast services around the globe as in review. Be like our Patreon producers at Nanobiologist, aka Mick Abramson, Tyler Ross, Joy, aka Joseph O. Youssef, Trent Berry, Mizuki, Man Bear Paradox, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, Alex J. Sandoval, Sancho West Gaming, James Hastings, Elliot, Casey Kern. Today we're brought to you by ExpressVPN, but for now, let's start the show with topic of the show.
At Z Davey on Twitter replies to me and says Max Payne and the Painkillers, and I think I recall this. Yeah, it was like a rattle sound.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
It was like that though. Yeah.
I feel like that's I feel like that's another one that, like the crunch, you can identify multiple games that have a good rattle.
Oh man, that would be a great Bless Who that you could assemble for Gamescast.
Yeah.
If you don't watch, if you're on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, of course, Blessing quizzes us with a game called Bless Who that he made up and did not steal from IGN UK podcast. But it's evolved into a million other things. If you got a bunch of different sound effects and then we try to figure out what games they're from.
What game that's from. That's actually genius. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. We'll just, source it to the audience. You don't have time to go through and listen to all these sound effects. What are you going to do?
But also, Greg, don't study.
I mean,
don't study.
Honestly, that'll probably be easier.
Where would I even start?
I don't know.
I have to watch Blessing's Twitter, I guess. I don't even know. All right. Topic of the show, ladies and gentlemen. Usually, as you know, this show goes up Tuesday at 6 a.m., which usually means about 5 a.m. Sony says something. And our episode is not tuned with it at all. There's a whole bunch of PlayStation news to catch up on for the week. But topic of the show is coming breaking news today, or at least a breaking rumor from thegamer.com, where Kirk McKean writes, PS3, Vita, and PSP stores to be permanently closed in a few months. The PS3, PS Vita, and PlayStation Portable stores aren't long for this world. According to a source familiar with the situation, verified by The Gamer, the stores are due to be closed down from July. The announcement is planned for the end of this month. PSPs and PS3's stores are to be closed on July 2nd, while the PS Vita store will stay open until August 27th. After those dates, you will no longer be able to purchase digital copies of games or DLC for any of the Sony consoles mentioned above. The PS3 released in November 2006 in a total of 87 million units during its lifetime. The console officially ended production 4 years ago after 11 successful years on the market and 3 model redesigns. The PSP enjoyed similar success, selling around 81 million units since its release in March 2005. And then it's Greg here. I don't need to tell you about the PlayStation Vita. It's still alive. It's still amazing. And and forget that it's Japanese 10th anniversary, December, February of next year, 10th anniversary here in America. If you own any of these 3 consoles and you've always wanted to download a specific game, now is the time. No doubt the price of physical games will jump up once the stores cease to exist. Blessing, I know you talked about the granular level of this on Games Daily today, and obviously we have a different audience with PS I Love You XOXO, and so I still want to talk about it. But I do want to talk about it from even going ground up, right? This is a rumor. It's from thegamer.com. They say they have sources, but it is also the fact that this is inevitable. This is going to happen, and I think it's a huge problem for PlayStation. Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're absolutely right. Like, one of my big points with this that frustrates me a little bit is that this sucks from both the game audience perspective and the game preservation perspective, where you look at games on the PS3 store and games on the PS Vita store and PSP store that are either digital only, or especially if we're talking about DLC, that stuff is going to go away and disappear to time, right? And there are going to be things here and there that might help preserve it. You know, piracy is going to be a big factor in keeping these things alive in some sort of way, but that is not the perfect solution, obviously. And so, yeah, I think this is a bummer. I think the biggest thing for me that makes this a bummer is that it feels like PlayStation doesn't even try to preserve these things that well. You have solutions like PlayStation Now. You have games being remastered here and there. You have things like PS2 to PS4, which is a thing that it felt like it existed momentarily, right? And was just kind of left alone after that. But there isn't really a wide, there's not really a bigger effort from PlayStation to go back and make sure that games from the PS3 era are playable in a digital form, or make sure that those games are available. Same with Vita, same with PSP. And so something like Severed comes to mind immediately, even though I think Severed 1 had a limited edition physical version, and it's also available on iOS. But if neither of those things happened, that means that at a point when these stores go down, Severed is just no more playable, and that is an awesome title from Drinkbox, and that gets lost to time. That's again a bad example because there are ways to get that game other than PS Vita,
Kebabs writes in with Kebab writes in, I think, rapping and really reflecting a lot of my thoughts on this. Right, Kebabs writes into patreon.com/kindafunnygames, just like you can. It says, the loss of the PS3, PlayStation, PSP, PS3, Vita stores is a sad thing. They've been one of the best ways to play PS1 games if you don't own the original hardware. And on Vita, you can map any camera controls to the right stick. Certain noteworthy games like Pain, Infamous Festival of Blood, and Ratchet & Clank Future Quest for Booty are also digital only in almost all regions, meaning they'll be lost forever. And as physical games get harder to find on certain titles like Suikoden 2 go for ludicrously high prices, these stores were fantastic ways to get them quick for responsible prices. Parentheses, though Megamind, the Blue Defender on PSP, is still going for $60. I didn't verify it, but that's awesome. I didn't verify it, but that is fucking awesome. While I understand the business move of shutting down the stores on 3 aging platforms, it would ultimately feel irresponsible if Sony didn't. I can't read today. It would ultimately feel irresponsible if Sony does not have a contingency plan for the future. If they don't, I hope these reactions are getting the ball rolling. My mind wanders to the PS3 filter on the PS5's game library. I hope that's a sign of things to come. And that's where this is all wrapped up, right? Where there's multiple camps of what's going on. I think all are right in some regards, in terms of, well, like, this is, you can't buy new games. The stores are going away. If you already downloaded them, or if you already have the games or already had them purchased, you should still be able to download them. Mm-hmm. That could be that's how it should go and what it should be. That is not, this is an official word from PlayStation. So again, I want to make sure we're guarding in case something happens in between the show or when you hear it. But like, if the way this should work is that, yeah, obviously you paid for these games, you own these games, you should be able to still download them from the network, even if the store isn't up and running. So that's not even the issue of your games are being taken away from you as much as new people aren't able to go get those games. And so that's where we come back to this issue, right? And you pull from Kebabs' question. We talk about how if you suddenly fell into Infamous, if you wanted to start playing Infamous again, right, you're going to pick up that PS3, you're going to put Infamous 1 on there, you're going to put Infamous 2 on there, and yeah, you're going to maybe want to go download Festival of Blood, but you won't be able to when you hear us talk about this game that was like this weird thing where vampires invaded Empire City, and it was, this download only, and it was not a dream, it was a story Zeke was telling in a bar to impress somebody. Like, That's a quirky, cool thing, and it's nice that you could go get that and you could go play that. But once this happens, if it happens, you won't be able to actually do that anymore. And so that's where you get into this thing of like, sure, if you own it, great, you own it and it's still there, theoretically. But if you're somebody who's just getting onboarded onto this stuff, this is a game that now becomes vaporware and you can't get it through any traditional means.
Yeah, and you also have games that I think you can learn a lot from. When you talk about the preservation aspect of it, like there are certain games that have come out over the years that could either teach lessons to developers. You can get ideas from, especially when you talk about the innovation of indie games on the platform. You know, we're talking about PS3, Xbox 360 era. You look at a lot of those games that are probably digital only, and I'm sure there's a lot you can pull just from an educational standpoint there. And I think it's especially a bummer because these aren't games that are super old, right? These aren't like, it's not like you're trying to pull games from 1956 or something like that, right? And I understand that video games in 1956 were a different thing, if even existed by that point, probably not. But we're talking about games that existed in like 2009. We're talking about the PS Vita, right? We're talking about like 2011, 2012, 2013. These aren't ancient games, and they're becoming unavailable to get new ones. And for me, when I think about what the internet has brought to video games and the digital revolution, and what, you know, the online connectivity has brought to video games, I feel like the opposite should be happening. I feel like that should mean that we're getting more availability for games that were limited by physical release, right? We should be getting more access to games from the PS1, PS2, PS3 era, PS Vita, PSP era. And for PlayStation, that just isn't the case. And I feel like there should be a push from them, if they're shutting down these stores, to at least appear as if they're making an effort. You know, that's one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of what Xbox does with their backwards compatibility, because not only do they try and pull forward a lot of games that they have from their legacy consoles, they also do things to improve those games, whether that be FPS boost or remastering, or you know, the boosting that you get from the Xbox Series X and S, right? Like there are a number of different things that help bring those games forward, not only in the I want to play an original Xbox game sense, but in the, hey, we're going to take original Xbox games and make them better. And at least there, even if the Xbox store shuts down, there's still some semblance of, hey, at least I can maybe get these games in the future, or hey, at least there's something being done to try and keep these games going forward from a preservation aspect. On PlayStation, you don't really have that at all.
And yeah, that's the crazy disappointing thing about this. You hope that, you know, again, this being a rumor from thegamer.com, that if it all holds true and at the end of the month PlayStation does come out and say, hey, yeah, these things are going away, that they have some messaging behind it as to what their plan is. If they're like, you know, today Imran tweeted, right, Sony shutting down old stores isn't shocking. Jim Ryan has been pretty outspoken in his belief that old games are just uninteresting, and he doesn't understand the fascination with preserving them. And then I believe this is a Polygon report that Imran screenshotted. Quote, when we've dabbled with backwards compatibility, I can say it is one of those features that isn't much requested, but it is one of those features that is much requested, but not actually used much. Sony's head of global sales, Jim Ryan, said to Time this week. Again, I'm taking Polygon screenshot. Understandable enough, but then he goes on, quote, that, and I was at a Gran Turismo event recently where they had PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4 games, he continued. And the PS1 and PS2 games, they looked ancient. Like, why would anybody want to play it? Why would anybody play this? End quote from him. Which, of course, is one quick snippet, very different thing, and we could be conflating and confusing exactly what games preservation means. But more than anything, this is yet the most recent example of the different ecosystems Xbox and PlayStation are making. And it's not bizarre. It's clearly been the writing on the wall forever. We've talked about this. The fact that the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, I can't just take PlayStation 4 disc, PlayStation 3 disc, pop them in PlayStation 2 discs, right? We all remember the Mark Cerny GDC image where we wanted to fill in a million rows underneath it. Like, all of that has spoken to them having these walled gardens and what they are. And this could very much be an in the moment thing of how, if we talk about Festival of Blood on the podcast, how many people are legitimately going to go download Festival of Blood onto their PlayStation 3? I don't know. But it is this latest chasm between Xbox and PlayStation where, yes, the Xbox ecosystem is, thank you for being an Xbox fan. Here's everything you've ever bought on Xbox. Here are all these things that we're making better, even though you're not asking us to do. Whereas PlayStation continues to be, hey, here's PlayStation, and this is what you're getting this generation. We believe in hard generational transitions.
Yeah, and I think we've heard the sentiment from them a few times of nobody showing up for backwards compatible games. Like who's gonna play these? Like they're not selling and all that stuff. And I don't know if I believe them. Like I don't know if I believe that there is not interest in backwards compatible games. I believe that maybe in the way that they've treated backwards compatibility so far, that there hasn't been the sales or the numbers that they probably looked for from things like PS2 to PS4 and other efforts to have any sort of backwards compatible stuff during the PS3 era also. But I think you could also I think if you put in effort to making backwards compatible stuff something that would be interesting, then you would see people show up for it. Because right now with the Bethesda acquisition from Microsoft, right, like they put all those games on Game Pass, and I've seen so many people go back and play older Bethesda games. I've seen people. I'm playing New Vegas. I've seen other people go back and try out games like Oblivion and Morrowind. I think Tim even went back and tried out. I forget if it was Dishonored or some other game that got FPS boost in order to see what it's about. And for PlayStation, yeah, like straight up like porting PS2 games over on PS5 might not gauge as much interest as you're looking for in order to make that make sense from a financial sense. But if you did something like FPS boost, if you did 4K upresing, if you put in work to actually making these old things feel new in any sense, then I think you would see people actually show interest and be like, oh shoot, I might check this out. Imagine if you did and actually they did do this on PS3 generation, right? Like they did the God of War collections, they did the Jak and Daxter collections, they did Shadow Colossus and Eco, right? And they remastered that shit. And at least I showed up for a couple of those. I got the Shadow Colossus and Eco collection, and I got the Ratchet and Clank collection. And I know other people who got a few of those collections. It's hard for me to believe that isn't a viable strategy for them. It's hard for me to believe that people didn't show up for that, and people wouldn't continue to show up for things like that.
Here's the thing: is I think you're walking into a million great conversations right now. I do believe Jim Ryan was like, people say they want backwards compatibility, but we don't see them actually want backwards compatibility. Because I think what they are seeing is, okay, cool, we'll put backwards compatibility in something, but it doesn't get used that much as you say it would. Hey, how many people are clamoring saying they want backwards compatibility on their PlayStation 5, but guess what? It's selling fine without it, or PlayStation 4 selling fine without having the entirety of it there, right? And even PlayStation's a corporation, right? And wants to make as much money as fucking possible. So as we've already talked about, or did we talk about any of these things of like, PlayStation or PS1 games, right? Being able to get them and play. Yeah, it was Kebabs, right? I talked about this. Being able to play your PS1 games on your PS3, on your Vita, right? Guess what? Those must not have sold for shit because they've never bothered to make that happen on PS4. They've never bothered to make it happen on PlayStation 5. And so what they have done is what you're talking about of, here's a remastered collection, or here's a remastered game. Here's a collection of games that have come before, all on one disc, all in one package. Like those must have been the franchises that people were clamoring for and being loud enough for, or they were using it as marketing to promote the sequel for whatever game was coming up. But you figure in so many ways that is the viable solution for what PlayStation sees, is that they see it as cool. You know what? Maybe when God of War 2 comes out, or when we're in the real lead up to it, because it ain't this fucking year, they'll be like, you know what? We are bundling together all the God of Wars that came before, obviously not 2018, but the ones that came before that in some kind of remastered crazy collection that you can play and pay again $70 for and double dip on, rather than dig out your multiple consoles and discs to go back and get it. If you wanted to, you could, obviously, but not that they'll make it easy for you to go bust out your PS3 and go get your games that way. Like it's all strategy, and that's what's fascinating and weird about it, where the elimination here and the broad stroke of it, for me, even though there are the Ratchet and Clanks and the Festival of Bloods and stuff, that's not the game I look at and cry for. I cry for like, oh man, no, if you don't own when I talk about The Last Guy, there's no way for you to ever go pick up The Last Guy when that code is out there and in the ether, it's somewhere for you to go grab. And how cool would it be if we were in the Xbox ecosystem where all that's there, it's all back there. You can go get it. You can still play that if you want to, right? Blinks or whatever the fuck everybody's always talking about over on Xbox and Geometry Wars and things like that. Like it's this. I don't know. It's just it's two companies with very different mindsets for how they're treating their audiences.
I guess my thing too is I just think about games like Metal Gear Solid 4, for example, that hasn't gotten a good port onto any other platform than the PS3, and what if you look at FPS boost and what that and
Sure.
all the other things that Microsoft does in bringing forward their legacy games, I could imagine the amount of excitement there would be if you had the same thing on the PlayStation side, where it was, hey, Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and 4 are getting, up-res 4K, FPS boosts for the ones that matter, right? Like those same enhancements that you see that would entice people to go back. I definitely understand the strategy portion of it, because I do think that you get to a point where you're going through all your games and across the board, it's like, cool, it doesn't make sense to do all this, because for most of these games, what are the games people are showing up for? It makes sense to do the few that people are, but when that is leading to games getting lost in the shuffle, right? Like even the obscure games that it might seem like people don't care about or aren't talking about, then for me, it just turns into a bummer. For me, it turns into a thing of like, just why not? Like, go for it. I know it's a thing of, hey, you're not making much financial gain off of this, but as a service to the industry, and again, I know this is a business, but as a service to the industry and the service to video game preservation, and all that stuff, like find a way to bring that
but
stuff
that's again where we're coming to, and I can't believe how black and white this generation is making it. All right, cool. You said it yourself. Like, this isn't moving. Like, I'm sitting here being like, oh man, The Last Guy. Maybe I was going to inspire grand total in the next 7 years, 10 people, 5 people to go download The Last Guy, right? Like, it's not really going to happen. It's the same way over in the chat as this is going on. Levi Hunt is like, Calling All Cars was a big one for me. Like, yeah, fuck yeah, I loved Calling All Cars when that dropped. But like, that wasn't one that stood out to me as like, oh my God, we're losing this thing. But it did to you. There's all these one-off games that are so small that nobody's going to care about. Or at least that's what PlayStation expects nobody to care about when this goes away. Yeah. And this isn't. And again, these games still exist for us, for you, if you have them on your, your profile, that they're there for you. But
for new people to come in, it's impossible.
And so that you start to really ask that question of who's this generation, whose argument for video games is going to win out. Is it PlayStation's, which is that PlayStation 5 is here, it's the shiny new box. PlayStation 4 to here is backwards compatible and everything's there and we're moving forward and this is how it is? Or is it Xbox that's talking about one gigantic ecosystem that is the entirety of everything they've ever done, and they're doing Game Pass and they're doing these things? And again, there's a question coming up later that's the same question, the age-old question of, has PlayStation reverted back to its PS3 hubris of just being a corporation and not being personable at all, whereas Xbox is Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg and Major Nelson and all these people that are in front of the camera talking to you as a human being and talking to you about the games, and where does that go? And again, we're talking about with Bethesda, right? Like, it's the argument we talked about this last week, so I'm summarizing if you're just new. The argument I've heard for years of you guys, being us that get our games for review, don't understand the $60, $70 now, right? You don't understand what that means. Well, if that's true, then Xbox and Game Pass should run away with this generation. Like, everybody should be fawning all over them, and they should have a huge influx. Is it that, or is it that people will pay? As I gesture back here to my PlayStation 5, they will pay for top tier amazing exclusives, and that'll keep you in an ecosystem, right? Like, again, there's so many things right at the moment that are happening where it's this us talking about right now, and like backwards compatibility, I think, actually muddies the waters for what we're talking about, right? Because we're not even talking about backwards compatibility. You're talking about just giving any way to get these games, right? Before, when it was like, oh, PlayStation 5 is not backwards compatible, it's like, well, if you really care about whatever PS3 game, hold on to your PS3, right? And again, that argument still rings true, because you could still already have it. You still, if this is true, you have weeks, months to redeem it, right? To get in there and get what you actually want. But it just rings hollow then for people coming forward who would come late. But who's doing that? Yada, yada, yada. It's a ball of wax. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in terms of like keeping your PS3 stuff and all that stuff, right? Like, a weird thing for this is, I guess when I think of backwards compatibility, I just think of unifying the stores, and I know that is 1000% a thing of when they're creating the PS3, they probably weren't thinking too far ahead in terms of where digital gaming is gonna go and how to make the stuff compatible going forward. They're probably very much thinking of the now with the PS3, and so I'm sure there are reasons why the PS3 store and the PSP store and probably the Vita store are separated out from the PS4 stores and the PS5 stores in terms of architecture, which is why you would probably want to sunset the PS3 stores, because, and maybe I'm giving them, maybe I'm not giving them, I don't know, but I imagine that you are sunsetting that because that is a thing of, hey, we have to keep this up and maintain it, and it's not enough for us to there's not enough there for us to want to maintain it and keep it up. We might as well just sunset this thing and focus on PS4.
Sure, it's costing them money. It's back to the
Yeah.
business side of it. How much revenue are these storefronts actually bringing in?
Yeah. I also want to shout out the fact that this also means a lot when we're talking about DLC, because we think about the games that we're losing, but a lot of games had definitive editions that came with DLC on the box, thankfully, and so those will still be available in some form. But we're going to say goodbye to so many game DLC that was only available through download through this, and that is a almost maybe as big of a thing as some of the smaller games are losing. So I just want to shout that out real quick.
Andy writes in to kindafunny.com. No, yeah,
Hi,
/
Andy.
Patreon. That works. And says, is PS Now not the answer to the old PlayStation stores shutting down? It is already there. Just needs changing to suit, but could be a very competitive move when combined with PlayStation Plus.
You need to add the content.
Exactly. I mean, like there's plenty of PS3 games and stuff up on PlayStation Now already, right?
There's like a
But it
handful
is
of
that
PS2 and then nothing for PS1.
Yeah, and it's that thing of like, what do you do for that? Like, why? There's not going to be a magic bullet fix to this. If this is true, they're not coming out at the end of the month and saying, guess what? We're shutting down the stores, but all the games are moving to PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Now. That's not happening. So that's like, it's back to like actually putting the stuff on there that people are looking for, right? And trying to figure it out. And even when you talk about PlayStation 2 classics, right? Which is something we saw last generation, and I think are the ones that are on PlayStation Now, right? Those were the very specific Hot Shots Tennis and the things people, I guess, were super demanding. Not every game was up that way.
Yeah, PS2 to PS4. Like I remember seeing Rockstar games and Dark Cloud like a lot,
And the
on the
Jack
PS2 to PS4
trilogy was on there too.
Yeah, and that felt like it was it. I know there are things here and there also on PS2 to PS4.
There were weird.
It wasn't
decisions
extensive
outside of that. They're like really weird. Like what? Like 10 people probably are psyched about this, but like, why is this a decision? It's so weird.
Yeah, no, there are definitely those. Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
And see, that's where we get back to it. And you know what I mean? Like you come right back to the crux of the issues. There's 10 people who cared about those, right? Like, again, PlayStation's not making these moves out of spite. They're doing all of this based on the numbers they're seeing, the return on investment they're getting. They're very business focused, right? Xbox is very gamer focused, and PlayStation is very much business focused, which benefits the gamers it's a different way, right? Different regard. It's capitalism. So the question here becomes then, though, like, I don't like that they're doing this. I don't like that they're removing the stores. I wish people were able to go get them and stuff. Does this mean I'm not going to play PlayStation anymore? Of course not. I'm excited for everything coming up on PlayStation. It's still my main thing of platforming, right? There was this brouhaha over the week since we've been gone of, Avengers PS5 dropped. You want to get your save off the PS4? It was, of course, completely convoluted to do it, and not even convoluted. It was complicated, and people were fucking it up, and things were going wrong, and they already downloaded a whole bunch of different ball wax. There's a question about it later, and there were so many people going like, "Hey, man, smart delivery is pretty smart now, isn't it?" And like, understandably taking a victory lap because that's way better than this. Did that make people turn off their PlayStation 5 and be like, you know what, they're right, I'm getting a Series X? Probably not. Like, it's this thing of like, how many of these things are just momentary fly in the ointment, right? Like, I was talking to somebody else about this over the weekend about the Avengers thing, and they're like, see, it's another example of this, and it's just going to get worse. I'm like, no, we're like already through the storm. Like, what other cross-platform games are you waiting for that are where you're going to upgrade to the PS5 version? Like, and at that point, won't we already know of like, all right, cool, you have to keep the PS4 version of the game on the thing. I already went through this with Borderlands. The thing people were bitching about with Avengers this past week, understandably so, by the way, it's not, and I'm gonna try to put on the user. It's a shitty way. I wish this isn't how it worked on PlayStation 5. But I already did this with Borderlands, where I was like, Borderlands 5 drops tomorrow, great. And I think I already deleted Borderlands 3 from the PlayStation 4 version. And then I turned on 5 and it's like, okay, cool. Upload. I'm like, oh, motherfucker, jump out, download Borderlands 4, to come in, get my save off the cloud, put it in there, upload it, come back out, come into PS5. Like, there's all these little things they're all little things. Like, do they ever add up to make people go, oh, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm going to Xbox.
I don't think they ever add up to that point, but I do think, you mentioned right that we're like pretty much already through the storm, or at least nearing there in terms of the transitional stuff from PS4 to PS5 and the cross-platform saves and all that stuff. But I do think that the difficulty we're seeing here with a lot of this stuff are more so symptoms than the actual problem. Because I could see, I think the more and more we make it through this generation, and the more we're seeing innovation and quality of life stuff and other stuff that is going on the Xbox side of things, and the more we see things like Game Pass grow out, and the more we see things like, I don't expect for the backwards compatibility stuff to be over for Xbox. Like, I still expect there to be like more expansions. I'm sure once you get, like, as Xbox acquires more studios, they're probably going to make even more games available through that. Like, I expect to see Xbox continue to do what Xbox has been doing over the last few years. And I think once we get that over on the PlayStation side of things will continue to look more and more like all right, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on, PlayStation? Why is there so much going on in the Xbox side of things in terms of innovation and quality of life stuff? And over here, we're getting great games, but the platform feels like it's struggling a little bit in terms of the either like UI stuff or small things here and there, or
quality
like,
of life,
stuff.
competitive advantage. Yeah. It's
And
also,
that's
just
the thing
feeling
I
like, do they care about you, right? Like, again, the thing about Xbox that's rad is like all I saw people responding to this, the news of it today and tweeting about it, right? Of just like, for as much as you talk about if you're in the PlayStation camp or the Xbox camp or whatever, right? There is this idea of the lineage to it. Over on the XCast, one of my favorite segments they opened up about was like talking about their first gamer tags and all the history behind that and yada, yada, yada. And hearing some like Mike's stories of like his friend whose mother had to sign him up for his gamer tag, like fun shit like that, right? And it's like, there is that lineage to it. And so this feeling of you're restarting every PlayStation generation to some regard. It's different now with PlayStation 4, obviously, and I do think there was a smoother transition this time around. And again, you do think to some regard, okay, cool. Now that we're here, we're probably never resetting the servers again. We're probably never turning off the store again.
Fingers crossed.
Exactly.
Like,
who knows? Who knows
like,
if that would really yet?
Because I was talking about this before, that if the PS6 comes out and after a few months, PlayStation's like, cool, we're sunsetting the PS4 store. That sounds like a ridiculous idea. That sounds asinine for where we've gotten with digital gaming. But part of me is like, cool, I'm not going to count it out. Given what we just got, given the dynamic, the difference between PlayStation right now and Xbox right now, and how on Xbox you're like, cool, I'm getting more and more of the games from the Xbox and 360 added onto the platform each and every year, each and every month or whatever, right? Like on the PlayStation side, it does feel like you are. It does feel like we're losing more than we're getting when it comes to legacy. And so for when I'm looking towards the future, my hopes aren't all the way up. My expectation is that, they figured it out now and these games will carry on forward forever. But you can't really make that statement cut and dry, at least yet.
Yeah, 100%. This PS Now seems to be on the tip of everybody's tongue about it. The nanobiologist wrote into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. It says, regarding the PS3 Vita stores closing, it doesn't affect me, but it just shows one major flaw with PlayStation: their lack of intentional support for PS Now. I'll elaborate. The biggest issue about PS Now is you need to stream PS3 games, and that hasn't been addressed years later, and feels like support for that has just stopped as they focus on adding newer games occasionally that last a couple of months on the service. How big of a win would it be to say, quote, hey, we know we're not going to make money on this anymore on the stores. Let's just add them all to the PS Now collection, end quote. Or not for a major discount, add them to your PS Now collection now and play them on your PS4/PS5. Xbox doesn't have every 360 game available on backwards compatibility, but that list is still slowly expanding and are improving those games with the Series S/X hardware, new software being implemented. I get why. Oh, that was the end of it. Sorry, that runs into somebody else's thing. Exactly, right? Of like, again, it's this thing of like what you're saying there, right? Is like, hey, we know we're not going to make money on this anymore, so let's add them to the PlayStation Now collection. That sounds way more like an Xbox move than it does a PlayStation move.
Unfortunately,
PlayStation is making broad strokes to support mainstream success, which you can sit there and be like, oh, it's corporate. Oh, it's this. It is all these things. It is them trying to serve as many people as possible. And then Xbox is still trying to get goodwill and gamers on their side. And so that Xbox is a battle of attrition, right? It's chip damage. It's making a platform stronger and stronger and stronger so that it is easier one day to say, oh man, I'd rather go there. Or getting to this point of like, you want to go play some old game you've heard us talk about on the PlayStation 3 or PS2 era, Xbox era, and you go, oh man, it's not there, but it is over on Xbox. I can't go get it that way, and you jump in there.
Also, we need to give up on being able to download PS3 games to PS4 or PS5,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. That
ridiculous.
PlayStation now is you can only stream PS3 games. Like,
because
they haven't figured out a way to do that. Come on.
A lot of people have been talking about PS Now as a solution to all this, and I think like it's a solution. It's not the solution. Like there's not really a perfect solution out there for all of this. But yeah, the fact that you can't download certain games on PS Now, you can't download like PS3 games, PS2 games, all that stuff. I feel like makes
you can download PS2 and PS4 games. It's just PS3 games.
It's just PS3 games?
It's just PS3 games specifically because of the way PS3 games had to be developed.
The cell.
Yeah, the cell or whatever.
The cell processor.
So that's for some reason being able to download shit like that from the cloud onto your console still does not work with your console.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
Very much so. Levi Hunt says what I think a lot of us feel, right? This conversation makes me sad because I'm 100% PlayStation with legacies, exclusives, nostalgia, etc. But Xbox has the mindset I wish PlayStation had. And I think that's exactly it.
Again, Jim Ryan said, fuck nostalgia.
That's exactly what he said in so many words, man.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, again, that's legitimately the thing. And it's this, but again, I find myself in such a thing of like, obviously, the stores are going to shut down at some point. Obviously, a business decision. It's crazy to think that we just launched a new hardware, a new console that didn't have some kind of solution for this, some kind of way to get to all those games. Like, remember, again, when we were talking about PlayStation 5 at GDC, we had all that stuff. You assumed, like, or you hoped that was all going to fill in.
Oh, the blank spaces, we're going to fill in with PS3.
But I also get, like, I am the guy who, infamously for years on Game Scoop at IGN would say, old game is old, right? Because I'm personally the kind of gamer that doesn't go back often. I do. We did, Peace Walker here, and we've played other older games. We're playing Ratchet and Clank right now, obviously, but that's a little bit wishy-washy because it's, like, for free this month. But you understand what I mean. Like, there are games I go back, but I'm not a Jared Petty. I'm not a collector. I'm not, somebody who has Britt Brombrocker from What's Good with her Woman Cave and all the games. It's like, I'm just not, or Austin Creed with all his collection of every Sega Saturn. Like, that's just never been me. And that's me personally. And I bet like I am the kind of gamer that I guess is the mainstream for PlayStation, where they are seeing that they're putting out these older things. When they test the water for something older, it's just not hitting. So why would they ever double down on it? So I can sit here now and be right there with Levi, where I'm like, this is sad. Like I have, oh man, Last Guy and all that shit. When was the last time I was ever turning any of those things on to play? Like it's all you're talking about is like, wanting a security blanket. It's nice to know it's there. It's, way back in the day when we were doing other shows and whatever, I don't even remember. Maybe just fucking around. Colin would always talk about cable, where I don't watch it, but I like to know it's there. I like to know if I wanted to go, I could do it. And that's exactly what this is. It's nice to know that if you wanted to stop right now, boot up a PS3 and go in and get whatever DLC you never played for whatever game you loved, it's there. But does it really matter in the end? Were you ever going to go do that? PlayStation's making the bet saying you weren't going to go do that. And their stats probably back it up, but I mean, there's no but. Their stats back it up, and so like it would have to be a drastic change and shift for it to actually matter to people.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'd be something there, and I'm obviously not like a business person or a manager or lead or whatever over at PlayStation, so they obviously know way more than I do. But for me, in the way that I think of this, and the way that I think about what Xbox does on their side, right? Like I think there is a viable strategy in celebrating legacy and being able to say, hey, this week we're bringing, I don't know, Burnout 3 Takedown to the store, right? Or we're highlighting Burnout 3 Takedown and how awesome the Burnout series was for PlayStation. Oh, this week we're highlighting Metal Gear. This week we're highlighting Gran Turismo and the legacy of Gran Turismo by putting all the Gran Turismos on sale. Like, I think there is so much you can do there in terms of building this ecosystem that your audience gets excited about and hyped about. Granted, I guess you already have that a lot with the stable of first parties. When you look at characters like Aloy and you look at Ellie and you look at Last of Us and Uncharted and all the first party games, you kind of have that. But I feel like you're missing out on way more of that by not having a lot of those games available to play.
100%. I want to see if there's anyone I want to get in here before we move on to anything else. No, I feel like we're just beating a dead horse here. I like this. Kevin wrote in, the Portland Kevin, to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Had a question. Is this a bad move for Sony? I think we've gone around there, but I like that he lists a whole bunch of games that matter to him. I can think of about 15 games that I need to download from the store to my PS3 or Vita immediately, just to be sure that I will have them in case I want to play them again. Does this look bad for Sony? Are they finally going to need a way to create PS3 games on PS4 and PS5? Here's a list of games that I loved and will either be lost to the PS3 shutdown or will now be only playable on Xbox. 3D Game Heroes, Child of Eden, Closure, Dead Space 1 and 2, Enslaved, Odyssey of the West, Everyday Shooter, Fear 1, 2, and 3, God of War, Ghost of Sparta, Infamous's Outland, Pac-Man Championship Edition, DX, Portal 2, Puppeteer, Renegade Ops, Shatter. Like, he goes on and on. A lot of these games do have disc versions. A lot of these games are on Xbox. But it is that idea.
If you bought these games already, you're also good.
Sure, yeah, exactly. But it's this ongoing thing of when you start thinking about, the games that are there locked into these things, it gets interesting.
Did Puppeteer get a physical version?
Real.
Do you believe?
It did.
Remember?
Puppeteer is physical as well, so you're fine on this.
Sweet.
So Kevin, and also, Kevin's saying these are his favorite games. I'm assuming you own these already digitally then. Again, we're assuming that this is going to be fine. You can download your purchases. Otherwise, that's a way bigger problem about digital rights management. But we'll have to wait and see if this is even there. But it's, another one of I feel as PlayStation continues to kill it on the gaming front with their first party and the decisions that they're making there. It's more of these gamer first choices that Xbox continue to kill it at, that we're just at odds on. And if you could just take the exclusives from one and the programs of another and put them together, it'd be the one company nobody could stop, and it'd be called Google Stadia.
You think that's what it'd be called, Google Stadia?
I think it's got a good name. You know what I mean? It
is a good name.
Attraction.
Stadia is a good name.
Blessing, I do want to go talk to our sponsors before we continue the show. But because we've waited so long, Ray Hayes did come through and recorded some Dishonored footage for you and some audio. Barrett, can we see this? He looks like he's about to eat a pear. We're going to see how this sounds.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, those are good. That's good.
Hold on, play it again.
Work.
I was yelling, yeah. Let me be silent for a second.
Yeah, that last one was hot.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
I like how you're saying, let me be silent as you're still talking over it.
I think I remember it, especially because he crunched on the grapes. That's something that sticks with you. It's that's not how it sounds when you eat grapes. Look at this.
Yeah.
Why would you sound like that when you're eating grapes? Also, did you eat the fucking
They
vines
ate the entire vine of grapes at the same time. That's why, bless.
It's a good crunch. I like that crunch.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, while we keep geeking out about crunches, why don't you hear a word from our sponsors? Of course, you want to get the ads if you went to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, but you didn't go there. You're here, so enjoy them. This episode of PS I Love You XOXO is brought to you by ExpressVPN. I know that none of you listening or watching this watch porn, but just in case you have any friends that do, you'll want to pay attention to this. With everything going on in the world, governments have increased their surveillance. I didn't see that twist coming. I had read ahead on the first line. I didn't read the rest. They're using your devices to track your location, movements, and in many countries, your internet activity. You don't want to be literally caught with your pants down. And one of the best ways to keep your online browsing activity private is by using ExpressVPN. When you use ExpressVPN, your internet connection is rerouted through a secure encrypted server so you can surf the web anonymously without anyone looking over your shoulder. Look, I know you probably think all you have to do is use incognito mode. Wait, hold on, Bear, do I not have to? I have to do more than that?
According to ExpressVPN, yeah.
And no one can see what you're watching. No one can see that you're watching every last hentai video on Pornhub, but you're wrong. Huh. Did not realize that. Even when you use incognito mode, your internet provider like Comcast or AT&T can see every single website you visit. And if you live on campus or use a shared Wi-Fi, your network admin can too. Huh. To be honest, that's kind of scary. That's why Kind of Funny backs ExpressVPN whenever we go online, and we recommend you do the same. Of course, we've talked about it before. ExpressVPN been used by Kevin for quite a long time. Not for the porn stuff. I think more for just business reasons. But now I'm thinking about it for the porn stuff. Without ExpressVPN, you're giving people a free license to peek over your shoulder and see all the freaky shit you're looking at. This is the best ad I've ever read. So to protect your privacy today, you can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Visit expressvpn.com/kindafunny. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/kindafunny to learn more. Because when they started with porn and then immediately went to governments and then they cursed in it. Good job, ExpressVPN. Blessing, tell me about some of these PlayStation updates.
Greg, let's start with this. What do you want to see from a new PlayStation IP? I ask because last week we got news that oh yeah, no, you're the one making it. We got news that Jade Raymond's new independent studio Haven has been invested in by PlayStation. I'm gonna read quickly from Christopher Dring at gamesindustry.biz. Jade Raymond has formed a new independent development team called Haven Entertainment Studios. Based in Montreal, Canada, the studio in its first game has received funding from PlayStation. The debut title will be an original IP for PlayStation. The reason why this is big news, obviously, is because Jade Raymond, she was doing work with Stadia first-party development. That got shut down, which meant that, once again, a Jade Raymond project got shut down before she was able to reach completion with it. And so, coming off of that, I want to pull in this question from Lucid Dream, who writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says this. The first thing that comes to mind when considering which single type of exclusive is missing from the upcoming PS5 roster would have to be a first-person game, either a shooter or an RPG. These are the types of games they'll be missing in the future now that Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda is complete. A brand new entry in the Killzone Resistance series with modern updates and a compelling story could work, but I think a fresh IP would be a lot interesting. And there aren't as many first-person narrative-based shooters these days when compared to the prior generation. Sony would just have to develop something that could differentiate itself from Halo, Call of Duty, and id Software games. I also think a first-person RPG that could compete with the likes of Skyrim, Fallout, and Cyberpunk could also work wonders. There's certainly a risk that PlayStation gamers are going to be cut off from Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, and even an Outer Worlds sequel. And we definitely aren't getting Perfect Dark or Avowed, so it would fill a void. And we saw how well Cyberpunk sold, so there's an appetite for these games. Lucid Dream, what kind of studios you would want to make a PlayStation IP, but the reason I combine these two, obviously, is because Jade Raymond is working on a new PlayStation IP, and I think Lucid Dream here brings up some good points in terms of what holes does PlayStation need filling. Greg, where do you want to start with there?
What holes of PlayStation do we want to fill? I think it's important to set like realistic expectations. I hear what you're saying here with a shooter and an RPG, right? I don't think that's what Haven would be working on. I think Haven's IP will be smaller, right? They are an indie studio that is partnering with PlayStation on this IP, of course, but I don't expect them to come out with something gigantic, right? I think you look at the wealth of amazing indies we have, and obviously it could be any kind of different game, but I don't think it's going to be a shooter, and I don't think it's going to be an RPG. I would imagine it's somewhere in that third-person action adventure realm, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it was even more 2D, not even 2D, I guess, but you know what I'm talking about, more of like an anchored view from a 2D perspective, but I mean, not making the game entirely 2D. Just for, I think, is what you're doing is your first game of your first studio, right? You probably want to work on something that you could get rolling on quickly, that you could get out quickly, that you could generate buzz for, and then bring on more people to keep ramping up. But like to broaden the question then into what like IP PlayStation needs, what kind of exclusive it needs. We've gone around on this. Blessing, do you think PlayStation needs a first-person shooter? I don't.
I think it'd be nice, especially with the point that Lucid Dream brings up that PlayStation's gonna lose a lot in terms of first-person games. We're talking about Fallout, we're talking about Elder Scrolls, we're talking about Doom, we're talking about Wolfenstein, Dishonored, Prey. Like, there's a lot that Bethesda brought to the table in terms of first-person games, and so I think does PlayStation need a first-person game? I don't think they need one. I think it could be a cool get, especially when you look at, you mentioned that you're thinking more so third-person action. I think that makes sense for Jade Raymond, especially when you look at the previous game she's worked on. If I'm pulling from Wikipedia right now, right, and she's worked as a producer on The Sims Online. She helped launch Assassin's Creed, that as a new IP. She was apparently managing director on Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, which I'm just learning, which is pretty cool. But then she was executive producer on Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Bloodlines, Tom Clancy, Splinter Cell Blacklist, Watch Dogs, which she also helped launch that IP. And then the list goes on where she goes as managing director on Assassin's Creed Unity, Far Cry 4, executive producer on Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, and then she worked on Star Wars Battlefront 2. But like for launching both the Assassin's Creed and Watchdog IPs, that would make sense for her, right? Like being having experience in that realm. I could see it. I could see there being a case for.
Wait, but neither. Sorry, I lost you here, maybe, but neither of those are first person.
Yeah, well, no, that's what I was gonna drive towards. Is I could see there being a case for her working on a first person game. It's something different, right? But still maintaining that like open world kind of setting, you know,
that's
as a thing,
point. Yeah.
Right? Like I think open world makes sense for that studio in terms of what I'm sure they've had experience with in the past. And a first person open world game, especially for what you're going to be missing out on as PlayStation, I think also makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that. And you raised a great point that, like, I think, especially for an indie team, first person eliminates the need for a character model and all the animation that goes with that, right? So just anchoring the thing here and getting something, to run around and work on. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, right? Like that gives you a narrative storytelling, especially for opening up the world and going through that way. So that does make sense. It'll be interesting to see if that's what they do with it, though, if that's where they're going to go.
Do you really think it's going to be that small of a game? Because this is something that I was announced on the PlayStation blog. They announced it as a debut, a new original PlayStation IP, which I feel like if we're comparing this acquisition to the Hideo Kojima, or not acquisition, if we're comparing this partnership to the Hideo Kojima Kojima Productions relationship with PlayStation back then, right? Like there was a lot of budget in Death Stranding, and again, Hideo Kojima is a different developer, and so I don't expect Death Stranding levels of budget in this new project, but I wonder how much money PlayStation throws at Haven because they are working on a new original IP.
I do think it's going to be that small. I do think it's going to be an indie game. I do think it's going to be something similar to like a Returnal or whatever, like in terms of scope, in terms of size, in terms of what you're getting. I don't think it's going to be a Death Stranding. I don't think they're going that hard, but I could easily be wrong, right? It's the thing, we have so little to go on. We just know that Jade's, CEO and co-founder of Haven Entertainment Studios in Montreal, right? Because even their blog post I'm looking back over, right, is so much, understandably, about Jade's career, about the last few months, about the trials and tribulations, about, everything that happened at Stadia in between the lines. And then you get one paragraph or two paragraphs, right, that go like this. And so today, I'm announcing Haven, an independent studio where many of the talented game developers I have worked with over the years and love dearly are coming together to do what we are most passionate about. It's time for us to refocus on games in a place where we can practice our crafts without any barriers or impediments. We want to create worlds where players can escape, have fun, express themselves, and find community. We want to pour our passion into a project. We want to make something wondrous for people to experience. Because we believe in the power of games to bring joy to people's lives. And Sony does too. Their commitment to excellence is unmatched. It's why I couldn't be happier for their backing and support. Together, we want to create games that are a haven for players, and we want to build a studio that's a haven for developers. So while we don't have many details to announce today, I want the PlayStation community to know that Haven Studios is already hard at work on an unannounced IP. We can't wait to show you more. Personally, the way that sounds when I hear about it screams to me like art project, right? Like it's going to be colorful, it's going to be fun, it's going to be something that I think of trying to tug at your heartstrings and tell you a narrative and do that thing. And like I'm extrapolating from this, but it's the idea that as I talked about on Games Daily about it, it really sounds like a post written that is, Jade and crew being like, hey, kind of, you know what? Fuck AAA game development. Fuck having all these corporate overloads that are on top of us that won't let us make the game we want. We work for months on something and then it gets stamped out. Google Stadia pulls out altogether of, first party development. Like, let's make something that we're passionate about. And I think when you do that, you start small and you go from there. And I think you make something colorful and wonderful and a haven for everybody. And like, it sounds multiplayer to me as well when you're talking about like, it's time for us to refocus on games and practice our crafts. And we want to have, this thing that's a haven for developers and our community and all these different things.
See, when I read that, I took it as hey, I've worked on things that went on to have a community, things like Assassin's Creed or Watch Dogs, stuff that specifically pointed towards Assassin's Creed, right? Like this game that ended up building this community of players and feeling like a haven for players, right? Something that they can project themselves onto and become fans of. That's the way I read it. And again, like I could definitely see it being an independent game or in a smaller scope indie game, because I think for Jade Raymond coming off of basically getting screwed by AAA development multiple times in a row now, I could see her being like, fuck it, we're doing our own thing. We're gonna make it an entirely different thing. I think that does make sense. But yeah, I don't know. Like I for some reason I could also see it as being something that isn't Death Stranding size by any means, but kind of walks that AA line in terms of scope and budget.
Sure. That I could see. I could see that. Because even then, like, what you would think, like Akina Bridge of Spirits, right? That's walking that double A line.
Or like Hellblade.
Yeah, exactly. That I all right, we agree on that. I think that we're getting in the right ecosystem sphere of what it's going to be. But it is, like it's. I really appreciate in response to the question, Lucid Dream coming in and being like, hey, here's how you counter program Bethesda and try to fill in those goals or holes.
Those gaps.
Yeah, right. And talking about like what you're seeing and what you're going to miss out on. And I do wonder if PlayStation's looking at that on that scale and trying to think of, okay, who can we partner with right now to bring in second party wise to give us an exclusive RPG if there's an audience for that. Because again, it's such a weird argument to have right now, or not argument, but conversation, right? Where it's like, first-person RPG that can compete with the likes of, like, when Cyberpunk wasn't fucking broken as hell, right? It was selling incredibly well on PlayStation. So it was there for gamers that way. But you list Skyrim and Fallout there, right? And even if you wanted to, the Outer Worlds sequel, like something else you won't see, right? And it is this actual conversation of, what does that look like in 5 years, 10 years, when you are the games that you enjoy and play, and PlayStation's making a killing on right now. PlayStation's out in front being, the number one selling console last generation, and this one, even though it doesn't count yet for this time around. They're out there because guess what? We have all these great first parties, and all the third parties are here anyway, so what do you care? And now that third parties are getting gobbled up by Microsoft, you start to see, okay, well, fuck, what will be there in 10 years?
Yeah, when I look at PlayStation first party, we talk a lot about the single player action adventure game, which PlayStation does super well. And the reason why I think that works so strongly for them is because you don't see many third party developers doing that on the level as PlayStation. So now there is a gap when you're looking at big Western RPGs coming to PlayStation. And so I wonder for PlayStation if they see a viable route being, hey, we have to do something first party that is a big RPG, because now we're kind of lacking in that space. And I don't think that's Jade Raymond's studio at all, but I do wonder if they find a way to do that first party.
Yeah, me too.
Next for PlayStation updates, Greg, how successful can PSVR 2 be? We got a news story last week that was PlayStation on the PlayStation blog revealing what the PSVR 2 controllers look like for PS5. I'm going to pull from Dom Pepiot at VG247, who broke it down in their article. In a new article over on the PlayStation blog, Sony's Senior Vice President of Platform Planning and Management, Hideaki Nishino, explains some of the thinking behind these fancy new controllers. Quote, "Our new VR controller speaks to our mission of achieving a much deeper sense of presence and stronger feeling of immersion in VR experiences," he explains. Quote, "It'll build upon the innovation we introduced with the DualSense wireless controller, which changed how games feel on PS5 by unlocking a new way to tap into the sense of touch. Now we're bringing that innovation to VR gaming," end quote. It's also noted that the new pads can be tracked by the headset, suggesting that devices will support inside-out tracking, something that was hinted at in a Sony patent that was discovered last September. The controller's design is not surprising either, considering the pads look a little like the Valve Index controllers. The design is a proven fit for decent, accurate VR play. Similarly to the PS5's DualSense pads, the new VR controllers support adaptive triggers and haptic feedback. They also include finger touch detection and tracking. Quote, "The controller can detect your fingers without any pressing in the areas where you place your thumb, index, or middle fingers. This enables you to make more natural gestures with your hands during gameplay," end quote. Greg, I don't think I've talked to you about this one yet. What are your thoughts on the new controller?
I think it looks great. I mean, it looks like what, VR controllers look like now. That's the big, it doesn't look like the PlayStation 3 Move Wand I'm still out there doing and bopping the thing and trying to get it to read and have it wig out. Like, I mean, we always joke around about how, Shu said it was, this PlayStation VR is Gen 1. It's like launching PlayStation 1. But I always felt funny when it was that thing of like having the Oculus Quest or having the Vive or having the Valve Index and having these units around here. And then like, all right, cool. I play with that for a while or whatever. And then put on PlayStation VR and pick up my giant like Play School light up wands or whatever. And it harkens back to like you've seen the old image, right, of the first time Shu ever tried PlayStation VR, and it was the beta prototype, and he had all this shit strapped to his head, right? Like I think he had move wands on his head, if I remember correctly. Like it's that idea of like, wow, compared to where home VR is now, like the PlayStation VR looks dated and looks like, so quaint. And so to see that, like, okay, cool, PlayStation's ready to step up and make some sexy controllers that make it actually fit in line, I think, with what the PlayStation 5 is, with what the DualSense is, with what a sleek, polished PlayStation looks like. I think they look great.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they're implementing DualSense features into the new VR controllers, because I think that's going to be awesome for VR. I started off this asking, how successful can PSVR 2 be? Reason I asked that is because we got a question from Nathan Choquette, who writes in and says, Blessing brought up an excellent point on KFGD with Paris last week when he said that it may be too difficult for PSVR games to be magically backwards compatible with the next gen PSVR without needing a lot of reworking to port games over. Now, I know none of us are devs, so all of this could be just fearful speculation, but do you guys think Sony can really afford to start the next-gen PSVR from scratch when it comes to its library of games? VR is already quite niche, and it seems like a bad move to lose out on the titles that made VR so great last generation. I just want VR to survive and thrive. Have a good week, gents. Greg.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a bad thing that PlayStation is likely going to start from scratch? Because my whole argument.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they'll start from scratch.
Do you think the games are going to be backwards compatible for PS5 VR?
Yeah, I mean they're already on the PlayStation 5, right? Like so, I think at worst, and again, go ahead and you can clip this out. This isn't me obviously making a this is how it'll be. At worst, I would assume that it's the new headset and the old move wands. Like I would think that would be the trade-off to it, and maybe I guess the thing around the one thing I can't wrap my head around technological wise, because I'm bad at tech, as you all know, and I'm not a developer, is the idea of right now you still need your PlayStation 4 camera to use your PlayStation VR on your PlayStation 5. So I would imagine, and I don't know how they'd fucking do this, but I would imagine that the new PlayStation headset has to be able to get around that, where I don't need all that stuff, right? I think it's a bridge too far,
right? Like it would have to have a camera, and it would have to have the lights on it so it can track head movement.
Well, yeah. But if we're getting the new headset with the inside-out tracking, couldn't that replace the light? Like at a system level, replace looking for the lights that it knows what the headset is because of that?
Maybe. We're like this is one of those ones where we're not developers, and so I don't like for me in the way that the PS4 PSVR tracks everything, right? It's done with the camera, and it tracks the lights on your PS Move or your controller, and on the headset. I would imagine that on a system level, especially when you're probably developing these games for PSVR and not having in mind that there's going to be a future version of VR for PS5 that shifts how that tracks. On a ground level, transferring that stuff to PS5 VR will take some sort of update or PS5 VR version in order to make that work. Right? Because for me, it's almost like on the Switch where you have games that are being redone for, like you have Skyward Sword for Switch, which is going to use the Joy-Cons for movement as opposed to the Wiimote. That takes some sort of development. Like there's a reason why the Switch isn't just inherently backwards compatible for the Wii. I imagine it's a very similar thing here.
I agree. Hold on, I'm seeing if I can get David from Upload VR in here, because he would be able to speak to this on a level that you
for sure
can't. I said, "Are you busy? Can I drag you on PS I Love You?" And he goes, "What time?" I'm like, "Now,
right now,
now, 5 minutes."
Because the solution I see here is you port games that are on other platforms. Like I'm sure for what PSVR 2 is with the inside out tracking and the new controllers, it is probably easier to port games from Oculus or other platforms onto PSVR 2, and that's how you do it. But that's, again, just a guess. I don't know how difficult or how different those two platforms might be just internally in terms of the hardware in order to make that work.
He can't do it. I think he's in a meeting or something. But he's still texting. So hold on. Do you think PS2 will be as compatible with PSVR 1 games?
Boom. I do. You mentioning that the new headset could work with the Move controllers, and
because if it's inside out,
the adapter,
can they track? They could the camera. Because if I'm right on this, right, that is like how the Quest is inside out, meaning that it has cameras built into it, right?
Yes.
So then it would be the cameras could look at the Move wand things.
But that has to be so different from, because on the PS4 VR, the camera is in front of you on your TV, or it's tracking from the front, and you're facing it. I would think that if you have inside out tracking and you're trying to track the PlayStation Move controllers, that just wouldn't work because it's backwards unless you update it or do some shit with it.
Here's, of course, unsubstantiated reports just from the live chat is what I'll give you, all right? Game Jumper X says, it depends on how they made the VR game. If the code was made correctly, you could swap out the tracking. And then David Mertz says, that's not necessarily true. I'm not sure which part he's responding to. The system is handling the tracking for the most part. As long as they developed PSVR 2 with that in mind, they should be okay. But so we can table this because we don't know what we're talking about. Yeah. But and my point stands regardless of it. And back to what you're talking about is, yes. Okay, first off, David from Upload VR says he thinks it will be backwards compatible. Okay. And I'm obviously not going to ask him whatever the hell he's in the middle of. He has a child too. I don't know what the hell's going on. Can you explain how, though? That would be possible. My thought process here is actually more about Nathan's question, right? Where do you guys think Sony can really afford to start the next gen of PSVR from scratch? Absolutely not. And again, this is what you'd like to imagine they've been building the Trojan horse for, with the occasional PSVR game for PlayStation Plus, the new thing for Play at Home, having so many PlayStation VR games. This is the idea that if you're, and I shouldn't say it like that, but if you're a frugal gamer, if you're paying attention, if you're one of those like, what do I have to lose kind of gamers, you've been accruing these PlayStation VR games. And so even though you don't have a PlayStation VR now, you should, if you've been paying attention, have double-digit free PlayStation VR games that are just sitting there. So if they come out and they have a sexy fucking headset, they have cool controllers, it's just the one cord, it's inside-out tracking, it's not a million things going on in your house, and they have a couple great things at launch, probably Half-Life Alyx running really well, like, wouldn't you a better opportunity of looking at it and going like, you know what, why not? Everybody loved it the first time around. Now they seem to have a great lineup for it. They say they're going to support it. The system itself looks sexy, and I have all these free games, right? Why not make this plunge?
Mm-hmm. I think either way, whether backwards compatible or not, I think this is a good step for PSVR 2 to go this route with the tracking and the controllers and all that stuff. Because for what the PS Move was and what PSVR 1 was, it got the job done, but it was not the ideal experience. The PlayStation Move controllers would get lost all the time if I had too good of lighting, which was a consistent problem with me.
Too much sunlight.
Too much sunlight. One of my previous apartments, the living room was lit a lot by the sun, depending on the time of day, totally. And I just couldn't play VR during that time. And so that was always a problem for me with PS Move, and then also like the just tracking in general with that thing was just not super ideal.
Yeah, no, and it was like you rotated around your body, right, and obscured the Move one for a second, and things would freak out. For me, it was always like, no matter how I had the camera, even when I could see it, it didn't work. But when I'd reach down low, there'd be games where like something's on the ground and I'd go to pick it up and it would just lose it, and I would never be able to get down and touch the floor, right? Like, yeah, it'd be easier to do that. David follows up and says, the only prickly point is that game is the games that tracked the DualShock 4, but they could just approximate with the new controllers for it. So he's saying there is a system level fix there, and he knows VR better than us for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I can buy that.
Oh, I know.
I still think there will be some caveats when it comes to
sure, as always, there will be things that don't work for some reason, and like no, we couldn't make this game, and here's an approved thing. But again, I would imagine it's going to be back to the conversation we were having, right? Of all right, cool. You know what? Here are the big hitters. We've gone through and identified the stuff you might actually go back and play again. Those have been patched to work, or we've done some system level fix to make that happen.
Yeah, like Beat Saber will 1000% be playable. Fuck yes, in some form.
Yeah, Moss will be fine.
Yeah, Astrobot might be a weird one because that is the dual shock controller. But
that new Astrobot you'll get with this one, come on now.
That is true. You will get an Astrobot 2 if Astrobot 1, especially if Astrobot 1 isn't available. And so I look forward to that. I'm trying to decide if I want to bring in. Actually, we're running late in the show, so I'm just going to go to the next update. We're getting 10. What was that?
I said, live your life.
I'm living my life. I'm living my life at home with these 10 more PlayStation at home games. Last week on the blog, PlayStation came through and they talked about how we're getting some more games for play at home. They announced 10 games. We're getting Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition for free between April 19th through May 14th. And then the following games will be free with play at home starting March 25th. All right, we got Abzu, Enter the Gungeon, Res Infinite, Subnautica, The Witness, Astrobot Rescue Mission, Moss, Thumper, and then Paper Beast. Hallelujah. Woo. We did it, everybody. Woo. Also, great lineup, especially via PSVR.
Oh my God, dude. Moss, Astrobot, come on, get in there.
Yeah.
A lot of people love Thumper. Res Infinite, come on.
Paper Beast, I tried out, and I had a fun time with it for what it was. So there you go. Greg, I got a question for you that I might have an answer for you for after I ask the question.
Sure.
Why did PlayStation buy Evo?
They like fighting games.
They do like fighting games. I'm going to pull from Sammy Barker at Push Square, who did a whole article answering this question. I try to condense this article a bit, but here is what it looks like. Evo is the most prestigious fighting game tournament in the world, but its origins as an amateur community event have made it a bit of a shambles as of late. Last year's competition was canceled due to allegations of sexual misconduct, and there are question marks over whether the event would ever return, especially with the ongoing coronavirus pandemic causing complications for conventions of this nature. It's perhaps worth noting that with the competition already in a precarious position, Sony is unlikely to have broken bank acquiring the event. We're clearly not talking about a $7.5 billion investment here, but this furthers its ambition to become the home of competitive gaming as well as single-player gaming. The platform holder noted in a blog post that in 2020, players spent an eye-watering 1.1 billion hours playing fighting games on its consoles. But those of you who have been paying attention will know that PlayStation has been coveting this market for quite some time. PlayStation's convention center, an often overlooked part of the platform holder's website, is jam-packed with events that you can enter, spanning games like Mortal Kombat 11 and FIFA 21, through to NBA 2K21 and Soul Calibur 6. Many of these have small prizes attached, with events unfolding on an almost daily basis. In fact, if you've ever looked at the official PlayStation YouTube channel, you'll find if you filter out the trailers, there are absolutely tons of competitive live streams. And I'm going to pause there in the article and say that, whenever I see PlayStation live on Twitch, it is always Mortal Kombat. And that's something that I've always wondered about, and this is starting to make sense. The article continues, many of these attract thousands of viewers. It's not hard to imagine how Evo, as one of the biggest esports events on the calendar, will significantly elevate its efforts in this area. Larger audiences mean greater engagement, and with Sony tethering its brand to the action, that means more players on its platforms. Sony clearly sees Evo as an opportunity to not only cement its status as a fighting game platform, but also to strengthen its position as a console for competitive gamers. Esports may not be your personal taste, but the Japanese giant is smart to broaden the appeal of its box. It's already the best place to play single-player story games, but the manufacturer wants to ensure its appliance is the de facto device for tournaments too. All that means more players, more subscribers, and ultimately more money. The article ends there. I also want to shout out the fact that when you look at the fighting game community on PlayStation, one, not only is the fighting game community on PlayStation very active there specifically, but then there are also plenty of fighting games that are exclusive to PlayStation. You're talking about Street Fighter V, Under Night In-Birth, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, and Guilty Gear Strive that is upcoming. That is also going to be exclusive to PlayStation. And so, does this all make sense to you, Greg Miller?
Yeah, we talked about it. The most important thing I think to what the hell, why is it going on is, again, we're going to talk about PlayStation as a business, as that's what they are and what they definitely remind you of time and time again, right? But the whole thing here, right, it's perhaps worth noting that the competition already in precarious positions, and Sony is unlikely to have broken the bank, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they were able to come in and get this at a cheap enough price that it made sense, especially with the games you've listed here at the end, especially with their Twitch presence, especially with how they've been treating the PlayStation Competition Center, right? Like, hey, we already have this. Let's kind of stomp out the competition. Let's get, and you correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not a fighting game person, but let's get arguably the biggest fighting game tournament brand on our side, right? Like,
100%.
And so, yeah, I mean, go get it and do this and continue to make them the place to go for this. That makes sense to continue your stranglehold on this genre.
Yep. And
I don't expect it to have like a drastic return on investment on it. But I guess I do, since the investment's probably so low. I don't think it's going to bring in the mainstream or anything like that, but it just cements that this is where you're going for fighting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that continues the strategy of, hey, let's own a community. Let's continue to just bring folks onto our platform. And if you were to do things like, say, announce a new PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which I would be shocked by. But if you're to do it, right, like this provides a venue to do that, or any other maybe fighting game efforts that you might have on PlayStation, I think that makes sense. And then you also have a lot of PlayStation branded stuff going on at EVO. I think that's going to be pretty dope for that. And so a lot of this makes sense. Go get them. I'm happy that EVO is going to continue to exist as an event. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Greg, I'm going to hit you with some PlayStation picks. This is where you have cool looking games coming to PSN. PlayStation picks. Let's start with the big hitters. This week, we're getting Overcooked All You Can Eat on PlayStation 4. That's coming Tuesday, March 23rd. We're also getting Balan Wonderworld, PS5 and PS4.
Why did you even put this on here? Why is that on the big hitters?
It's a big hitter. It's a big hitter.
You guys, I've never seen you. You actively unsold that game to everyone on the Gamescast when you went through and pointed out that every button on the controller does the same thing, and it's a bunch of goddamn nonsense. Like, I went through and read that website. It's a fever dream.
It is a fever dream. And so if you're looking forward to having that fever dream with me, actually, I don't know if I'm going to jump into this one. Part of me wants to.
It's easy platinum. I'll be all over it, but I'm just saying.
It's not going to be easy platinum. I'll tell you right now. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be annoying as platinum. But yeah, that's coming Friday, March 26th. It Takes Two is coming into PS5 and PS4 Friday, March 26th. And then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is coming to PS5 on Friday, March 26th. Friday is a huge day. For the actual picks themselves, let's start off with a game called Paradise Lost that's coming to PS4 on Wednesday, March 24th. It's winter 1980. Zyman, a boy raised in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, finds an abandoned Nazi bunker. Will he find what he's looking for? Play Paradise Lost and explore an underground world where Slavic mythology mixes with retro-futuristic technology. Discover the last story on Earth. We're looking at it now if you're watching the video version. Barry, if you could skip forward, I believe it's a first-person like walking sim, but I might be... Or maybe not. I might be projecting.
This entire video looks like a cutscene. I'm just
there you go. Fast forward there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got like a beautiful looking world. I take back what I said about the first person walking sim. That might be a thing that I'm conflating with another game. But it looks cool. It's a narrative game nonetheless, and so if that premise sounds like your jam, boom, go get them.
I've jumped ahead here. It is first person. Yes, you're walking.
Okay, it is first person.
You're walking around. You're tapping stuff. I'm on IGN.com. Oof, this is a lot of walking, looking around this bedroom.
You like walking sims, though.
I do. But I don't know if this story will grab me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
You're not a big fan of retro-futuristic technology? I'm not excited for it, no.
No, I guess I'd say no, I am not a fan of it.
I wanted to include it, though, because it looked like it had a cool style to it that I'm sure somebody
that's
out there watching is going to be into.
Well, no, I mean, we want to talk about games even if we're not interested in them, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. We also got El Hio. Sorry if I mispronounced that. El Hio, Wild West. That's coming to PS4 Thursday, March 25th. El Hio is an exciting spaghetti western stealth game in which you got a 6-year-old boy on his quest to find his mother. As a 6-year-old, El Hio must always sneak past the dangers of his world. As he overcomes his challenges, he gains a self-confidence and cunning, and with it, more schemes to get past his foes. On his journey, he will find himself in a remote monastery, a harsh and unforgiving stretch of desert, and a frontier town rife with crime and villainy. When I watched the trailer and I dug the art style. It has a cartoony art style. Again, it does the spaghetti western thing. If you fast forward, Barrett, you'll get us into some gameplay where he is being stealthful. He is avoiding enemies. Cute little art style,
just like you'd expect.
Yeah, he's doing his thing. He's solving some puzzles, changing the tracks on a railroad.
The art style is super dope.
Yeah, right. Like the art style looks super cool. I'm digging it a lot. We also got Bladed Fury, which is coming to PS4 Wednesday, March 24th. This is a classic Chinese fantasy 2D action game based on Chinese history, mythology, with a dash of surrealism in the mix, featuring a unique art style with mysterious Chinese elements, fluid combat experience, and style that's easy to learn but difficult to master, and the Soul Sliver system that adds depth and changes the pace, making combat more exciting. This is a game another one with a good art style. I added it right before the show. When we got into the gameplay, I was like, oh snap, this actually looks kind of fun. Yeah, there's a lot of hacking and slashing going on. Lots of it's like a watercolor art style that it has going on, but like it's a lot of action on screen that I'm digging.
You love action. You say it to me all the time.
Yeah, no, that's the thing I say all the time. I love action. She shot a big old gun, and we just got a nice shot right there. And that's it for PlayStation Picks, Greg.
All right, let's talk about what you've been playing. I think we've both been playing a redacted game, correct?
Correct.
Can't talk about it. So that's what the majority of our playtime, I think, my playtime has been going.
Same.
Yeah. So outside of that, I booted up two other games for you, Blessing. Crimson Land and Mundawn. I want to say it right.
We talked about Mundawn a little bit last week. That was the pencil art style.
Yeah, you want to throw it up? Barrett, I sent you a trailer. I sent it late.
I'm on it. Don't worry.
Okay, but a big guy. Yeah, I'll give you the Mundawn story for you, all right? A lovingly hand-penciled horror adventure by Hidden Fields, a one-man studio founded by Swiss programmer and illustrator Michael Ziegler, slated to release on PC and consoles on March 16th, 2021. Mundawn is a tale set on the darker side of the Swiss Alps, with a story rooted in the chilling folklore of the region. Players follow a young man who travels the town of Mundawn to investigate the mysterious circumstance behind his grandfather's death. Along the way, he discovers something old and diabolical is haunting the eccentric residents of the town. Players will solve a number of handcrafted puzzles to uncover the secrets of Mundawn, and must also avoid triggering the game's unique fear system, a cause and effect gameplay feature which impacts players as they become scared. This is something the other day I was sitting there and had a little bit of free time, but not enough to jump into Redacted. And so, and also I didn't have enough time to really do anything of meaning in Avengers. So I was like, all right, what do I have? And I jumped into this one. Really dig the art style. It's incredibly unique because it is like you are existing in this horror game in somebody's notebook. Everything's drawn by hand. So it's all these like 2D pencil sketches. And even like when you reach out to do stuff, because it's first person, you see your hand and, in certain instances, and it wigs out and stuff. It gives me the vibe of the horror movies I really am unsettled by, but enjoy watching, of something, like The Witch, something like Midsummer, where it's like, what is going on in this place, right? And because the thing starts with our character on a bus back to his grandfather's hometown, or his grandfather's farm in their town or whatever. And like, it's a letter from the priest being like, your grandfather died. There's a fire at the barn. Like, don't come back. It's not worth it, kind of thing. And your character's like, there's something weird about that. And it's all done through subtitles. They're speaking in a foreign language, I assume. I don't want to assume. They're speaking in a foreign language. And so it's got that vibe of even watching like one of the things I love to do is watch foreign language horror films on Shudder. So it's got that vibe to it of like, oh man, what are we getting into? And so you go in and it is it's funny to say bright and sunny because it's all pencil. Like, it's all pencil on a white page, right? But it does give you that thing of, they do a great job of setting this atmosphere of you are in this, quiet country town. And then, you start investigating what's going on and start, you go to, I'm giving you spoilers for the very beginning of the game, of course. But when you investigate your grandfather's burned down barn, outside you find this painting, right? This guy, and like you go through it into the farm, the barn being on fire. You see like your grandfather trying to get out. You go over there, and then it's this guy who grabs your arm and says he worked with your grandfather a long time. A firm handshake, and he like burns your hand and fucks it up. And it's like, clearly, I'm assuming already, like, he's the devil. My grandfather there's a photo in the grandfather's house of all these people who look the same, and then the guy who kind of looks like the other. Like, it's got all those hallmarks of a horror movie to it, of like, oh man, what the fuck is going on? Like, did Grandpa sell his soul and like the whole town's invested in this, and that's where it's got to, we're gonna have to go from it. But then you start playing, you figure it out. But then you get into the gameplay of it, and it's got some of those like classic adventure game things that I'm just not a fan of like trying to figure out what the fuck they want me to do. Like, I don't understand to this day what happened. Like, maybe something happened in the game world, but I walked up the hill to get to the church. Couldn't get in the church yet because I don't have the key. That makes sense. Came back down. Then I tried to go up the way I came down, but now I'm too tall to get through the doorway to get through. And I'm like, is this the game, or is this did I fuck something up? Did something happen in the world that changed or whatever? There's all this fog. I used all my matches like a moron, not realizing they were limited, so I can't set the hay on fire to clear the fog. It's like, there's a bunch of stuff like that going on that I don't know if I'm going to go back to, because I was playing and I was enjoying what's happening. All right, cool. And there's like this girl up on the cliff's edge over here, and she's got her goats, and I don't trust these goats, blessing. I don't know what the fuck's going on with these goats or whatever.
Oh, no.
But like, I got to get up to her, but I can't get up to her. So it's like, it's almost there to really have me hooked, but it just seems to be a little bit too much. Like, because then it was the same thing of like, all right, you can make coffee is optional is one of my objectives, right? And I have the pot and I have the coffee and I have to go get the water, and I understand all this stuff, but then to come back and assemble it, and like, it's like one of those games where the hitbox for like where you should open the oven to put in the wood to open like, it's very small. So I was getting annoyed with like the clunkiness of the controls. It doesn't run super well. I'm playing on PlayStation 5. So it's just like one of these things of like, nah, like, I like the idea of what's happening here, but I don't know if I like it enough to come back. But I didn't delete it off the hard drive for that quick taste.
Is the gameplay entirely walking simmy? Like, are you just walking around picking things up and them down?
It is, but there is combat coming, and I don't know what that means yet, because I ate something and they're like, oh, this increased your health or whatever, and then it was like, there was this hay pile that I hid in. I was investigating what all the buttons do or whatever, and like I hid in the hay pile, like I'm gonna have to hide from people. So like, something's happening. I'm not sure what yet, and I didn't look ahead on any of the reviews or the reviewer's guide or anything like that. So again, this is a first blush thing. It was like I said, I had a couple minutes before Jen was going to be ready for something, so I jumped in and played that for a while. And when I got to that first point of like, what the fuck? Why can't I climb back up this goddamn mountain or whatever? I was like, you know what? I'm clearly not in the mood for being invested in having a noodle scratcher here. And that's when I remembered Crimson Land. Are you aware of Crimson Land? Blessing Adeoye Jr.
I don't think I am, no.
It's been tossed up right here. What had happened is it got a PlayStation 5 update recently. And I saw Sean Benson and Sid Schumann talking about it on Twitter. And I was like, oh, okay. And they were quote tweeting the PlayStation.
This looks like my type of game. I like this.
They were quote tweeting the PlayStation tweet about it that goes like this: twin stick purity, co-op carnage, RPG, and roguelike elements. Crimson Land's 18-year run has earned it a cult following, and its new PlayStation 5 version ups the ante. And so I was like, what the fuck? And yeah, this is a game that came out originally on PC in 2003. And then came to PlayStation in 2014, and now has a PlayStation 5 version out. And like, if you're looking, what you saw there is what you get, right? It is twin stick. You're running around. You're shooting waves of enemies. There's a quest mode, which is like the story things you go through. There's 3 different difficulties, 2 you have to unlock. There's a survival mode to go through. But as you play, and you go, if you can play it again, Barrett, real quick, I can call out, like, there's a progress bar at the top that's showing you how close you are to eliminating all the enemies in the level to then advance to the next section. And then underneath it, which I don't see here, maybe this is just survival, there's an XP thing that fills in. Oh, actually, you know what? This is 2014's version, I think, since they don't have a PS5 trailer out, so I'm sure the game and interface is updated since then. There's an XP thing that levels in. As you level up, in that one round, in that one level you're doing, it pops perks you can choose from. So you can have a radioactive halo around you, so if things get close, you leech them. You can walk slower but be stronger, stuff like that. You can shoot faster. And so as you go, you start earning more of those, which change the gameplay that way. Let alone the game is also dropping power-ups on the ground and then new weapons. And then when you come back to your main screen, you see all the perks you've unlocked, all the weapons you've unlocked and stuff as you go through and do it. That was exactly what I needed on Saturday afternoon or morning or whenever I was waiting for Jen, where it was like, oh, this is twin stick, and it's twin stick in the way that it's arcadey. It's jump in and play for a little bit and be done. The levels aren't super long, right? Or I shouldn't say that. There's the levels, and I guess so. Yeah, there's the worlds and then the chapters and then the levels inside them, right? So I think there's like 8 or 9 levels in the first chapter or whatever, and those are pretty super quick. So it's you can go through and feel like you're doing something, then bounce off and go do whatever you need to do. If you're an audio listener and you weren't watching it, incredibly basic gameplay, or I'm sorry, incredibly basic visuals. Like it isn't trying to wow you with visuals at all. It's very much like this is here for the gameplay of it. This is here for the gameplay loop of it and killing these things. It's Crimson Land because as you kill all these creatures, they leave blood all over the level. So as you go deeper and it gets harder and harder, you start really having this just blood trail all around you, this thing. But it's not gory. I had a great time with it. It was what I was looking for, and I didn't, getting new weapons, finding ones I liked, finding perk power-ups and combining them to get what have a different feel on it. I was having a great time with it, and that's something else.
Do you know if it has online co-op?
I don't actually. I think it might be only local because it does say press start every time at the beginning of a new level for it, and plus it's old as hell.
Yeah, it's an old game. That would make sense.
Yeah.
It looks cool. I might try that out. That actually looks really fun.
Here, let me see. I'm clicking on the actual PlayStation tweet. Maybe they tell you if it's got an online thing. Hold on.
Because it could be fun to play that like for a stream or maybe just like during a night or whatever. It'd be fun.
Oh no, it does.
Oh.
Wait, hold on. Over the years, we've actually had more than one prototype for. Oh no, this is for Crimson Land 2. They're talking about.
Oh wait, there's a 2?
I don't know. It's a tech demo right here. I mean, this is like a long ass blog post that I'm just jumping into. Oh no, it's and the dream of Crimson Land 2.
Gotcha.
So it looks like it's local only. Yeah. So I'm digging it. I'm ready to play more of it.
That's awesome.
But it'll be something I think I'll do like that either start up the night or wind down the night, right? Where you jump in, play for a bit, bounce off to whatever you're gonna do. And then the other thing I've been playing a lot of is Avengers PS5. Of course, Hawkeye dropped. I got him filled up. I guess I didn't get him to level 50 or 150, but I went through his storyline, did all that stuff, and had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, how was it?
Story is good. It wasn't as good as Kate's. They're still, building up to the next big thing or whatever. The roadmap already spoiled it, of course, so I'm just gonna say it. But like building up to Monica having the cosmic cube. So I like the idea that they're toying with that. This is the future imperfect stuff. So you deal with old man Hawkeye, which was cool. I think the new Wastelands area is cool. I wish they were doing more in it. The roadmap for Avengers that they revealed last week talks about there being a patrol, right? And when we talked to them on the pre-brief for it, they explained those being as like, cool, patrols are going to be never-ending missions where you go out there and there's a bunch of different stuff happening in the thing and you go and do it, and then by the time you double back to where you were, there'd be more stuff going on, similar to a Destiny patrol. And when you beat Hawkeye stuff, and you can do it, I guess, from the start probably, but like there's a mission called Funeral for You over in the Wastelands that I think is the prototype for what they're talking about, because it was a much longer mission. I was running up, finding the Pim's old robot who was giving me the next thing to go to this thing, and I'd go there and there'd be these larger encounters, and then in a very non-Avengers way, the mission ends, with a giant wave-based battle to try to get back onto the Quinjet, which isn't normally how Avengers stuff ends. I like that a lot, and I like that that's what they're pushing for it. So it's one of those, like, if that's what patrols are going to be, give me more of that. But again, it's the same thing as always, where it's like, cool, I did that for, the 2 nights or whatever, and it's like now I can sit there and I can grind Hawkeye to 50 and 150 if I really wanted to, but do I? And I say that and it's like I don't want to do it by myself, but like Dornbush was tweeting about playing a lot of Avengers, and I know Imran's been doing it, and it's like I'm totally down to take one of these guys in there. I'd probably double back to Kate Bishop because I think I like her more, and go play with other people and earn more gear and earn more loot and stuff like that. So
now, Greg, did you see that on the calendar? I'm going to be playing Marvel's Avengers on Thursday for my streaming day.
I did, and I was very angry about that. I'm hoping my Thursday conflict that I'm booked on will end quicker so I can come join you.
Okay, I was going to say, if you're free, come
I would love to.
It seems like you booked Avengers to spite Greg almost.
Yeah, it does seem like you
looking exactly at our calendar. It's like, yeah, Greg's got this thing for a while, and it seems like you specifically looked at Thursday and you're like,
yeah, it's there. You see me 9 to 3. I'm booked out on it. Yeah. Now, can this thing take that long? I don't think so. So I think you're in good shape that I'm going to get out of there pretty quick and be able to come play with you.
Yeah, dude, if you can get out of there and come through, please come through, because we need some Greg Miller to guide us through.
Where does this come from? Where does this? I don't understand what this desire is coming from to play.
I just want to check it out. Like like a week ago, actually, right before the Square Enix Marvel thing. I forget if it was on the Slack or what, but I was talking about how, oh yeah, dude, if they announced Black Panther at the Square Enix thing, then you got me. And they did it. And I was like, fuck, well, I guess I gotta at least try it out. I also want to check out the PS5 version to see if any of the improvements grab me, because I fell off because of a lot of the technical stuff.
And let me tell you, those loads, holy shit, are they fast. It's beautiful. It's so crazy compared to what it used to be in and out of stuff so quickly, and loading into missions so much faster. Yeah. Have you done the save transfer yet? Have you been briefed on the save transfer?
I did do the save transfer, though. When I did it, my game froze. Like it was just stuck on a loop screen, but like all my trophies popped, and so I assume it made it over. But I did the save transfer and I cut it off.
You're fine then. Yeah, you're fine. However, though, let's bring you up to speed. I'm going to actually move it up here, ladies and gentlemen, since I knew we'd be talking about Avengers. This is your trophies and chill segment for the day. All right. It's a daily double. Wow, wow, wow. Hawkermusic writes into patreon.com/kindafunnygames and says, "Hey, Greg and Bless, as someone who's considering getting the platinum in Avengers, what's the deal with trophy progress transferring from PS4 to PS5? Should I wait to transfer my progress until I get the platinum?" So, there was a whole hullabaloo, and I mentioned this when we were talking at the top of the show about Xbox differences to PlayStation differences, of that this is just like Borderlands PS4, PS5. So the idea is that if you're playing Avengers PS4 on your PS5 right now, it's not your PS5 version of Avengers is not smart enough to just grab your save. You have to start Avengers PS4, upload your save there, then go to your PS5 version of Avengers, and then it says that you have to manually download it, but it automatically downloads. Blessing as you saw your trophies popping. Yes. It'll bring your stuff down right away. It's a headache, obviously, because why the fuck couldn't you just teach these machines to see the same fucking save? But it's a headache if you've already deleted Avengers and you need to re-download it and stuff like that. There's a bunch of problems. If you do that, you should be okay. There's plenty of people. Fran had a whole fucking Twitter thread, of course, of things that went wrong for him trying to do this and crashes and freezes and everything else like that. Clearly not a great system. Smart delivery is brilliant.
I mean, also everything breaks around Fran. It's been established.
Also true. It is also true that he's cursed and shouldn't play video games. But to your specific question, Hawkermusic, should you wait to transfer your progress? Yes. Platinum it on PS4, because then when you turn on your PS5, you'll get the platinum there. Otherwise, you'd transfer your progress and have 2 trophies left, and you'd pop them on PS5, and they wouldn't pop on PS4. And I don't think you'd be able to send your save. You can't send your save back to PS4 that way. So you're picking up there, and so just don't do that. Don't do that. Also, you might say, hey, Greg, wait a second. Avengers stores all of its save data locally on systems? Yes, I don't understand it either. I don't understand what the fuck that's all about. That's crazy. Should not have been done that way for a games as a service. But hey, tip of the iceberg on things this thing shouldn't have done. Blessing. I'm excited for you to play Avengers, but what else have you been playing now?
Just Apex. I've been on the Apex train. I've been back. Season 8 got me back. I'm still playing the Ring Fury Takeover event, which I think should end sooner or later. That's the one where there are circles within the circle, and so you have to dodge the circles as you're trying to make your way in the circle. It's all this bullshit. It's fun. It's fun for what it is, but I can't wait for them to go back to just regular casual mode, because oh man, there have been so many losses where I'm like, if it weren't for the damn inner circles. But yeah, I've been having fun with it. I've been playing with a lot of friends, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just got the balancing right or what, but so many of my friends are in Apex again. Like so many people I know are into it this season. And so, yeah, I've been having a good time with that.
They were waiting for the true Battle Royale to return, Fall Guys.
Yeah, new season.
Oh, yeah, they're waiting for that next season to hit. And then aside from that, I've been playing New Vegas. Are you going to play it? Have you started?
Yeah, I already played a couple matches this morning. They have a mode that's like specifically checking out all of the new maps, and it's dope as hell.
Oh, that's fun.
So I'm just saying we should probably get back into Fall Guys, guys.
Dude, I can be down to play some Fall Guys.
Hell yeah.
It's been a while.
They have full suits?
Do they have full suits?
Yes, and one of the suits that you unlock through the quote-unquote Battle Pass structure that they have is the Among Us outfit. There's an Among Us outfit.
Huh. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Have they figured out what that outfit does? Because they're teasing some weird stuff with it.
No, I'm sure we'll see sometime today or tomorrow. Someone will unlock it and they'll be like, "Holy shit, this is what it does!"
Like, whoa, I can murder people now.
Games.
Also, I just want to say,
sorry,
I just want to say I platinumed Miles Morales over the weekend. And
hey!
Oh, congratulations!
Congratulations!
It took me way too long to go do a second playthrough of that game, because that was like one of the 4 trophies I had left was do a new game plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every so often, I think about going back and platinuming it on PS4. Just start a PlayStation 4 save, platinum again.
You have a problem.
I like Miles. Yeah, my problem is
just let platinums come to you when they come to you, Greg. Come on.
No. There's no way. That's no way to live. That's no way to live.
Rolas
Rolas Racer writes in the live chat and says, "Bless, I had the same freeze happen to me while my trophies were popping. The save didn't transfer. I had to go back to the PS4 version, migrate again, and start the PS5 version again."
Really?
So double check that, because for me it was all my trophies popped, and then I didn't download anything. My trophies all popped, then I got to the screen, and all my Avengers were dressed in their normal outfits, and all my progress was there. So
I'll check that.
But give it a check. Yeah, who knows? You know what I mean? God forbid PlayStation makes something easy.
I've also been playing New Vegas on Xbox, and I know it's a PlayStation podcast, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway. I'm having a fun time with New Vegas. It's bringing me back.
You might be running out of days to go
but-
download New Vegas to your PS3 off of this PlayStation Store, which I don't even think it probably is up as a. Probably not even a download.
It's
Anyway,
probably not worth playing New Vegas on the PS3 today because I don't think that game ran that well on that system back then.
are you going to beat New Vegas and are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. I don't know if I'm gonna beat it just because for a lot of those RPGs, like the big Bethesda RPGs,
Yeah.
I feel like I don't like I well actually no. What I'm thinking of right now is Skyrim. I played Skyrim multiple times and I get 20 hours in each time and I just get bored of it. Like I had a fun time when I played Skyrim, but it was one of those games that I would jump into, have my time with it and be like, cool, I think I'm good. I think I got what I needed out of this. And I think I could see myself doing the same thing with New Vegas, mainly because, I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to where some of these quests some of these quests go. I just met up with the Bright Brotherhood and I love what's going on with them. They're like a fun gang of ghouls, spoilers for New Vegas, that are basically like trying to find their promised land or some shit. And so I'm having to take out the Nightkins for them in the basement. Having a fun time with that. But I do have that thing where I'm like, oh yeah, this is an old game. Oh yeah, this isn't always pleasant to look at. Oh man, I kind of do. I've played Fallout 4 and I know what a modern RPG feels like and all this stuff. And there's like those quality of life stuff that's kind of missing out of New Vegas. Things like me knowing what level I have to be to do certain quests. They don't clue you in at all. And so I'll go down a quest line and hit a wall because enemies are over leveled for me. And I'm like, cool, I have to go down another quest line and ends up that other quest line also is over leveled. And so I had to come back and keep doing that stuff, which isn't always a fun way to do it. But like for the most part, I'm enjoying it. I could see myself eventually finishing it, but I'm not committed to finishing it yet. I'll have to see where I'm at like 10, 20 hours from now before I'm like, cool, yeah, I'm definitely doing that.
All those major gripes are the same ways I felt about Persona 4 Golden booting it up yesterday, where I was like, I finally figured out Steam Link. Let's fire it up on the phone. Let's hang out in the bed, all that stuff. And I played for like an hour, and it was like all the like same thing what you're saying, Bless. But just about Persona, right? And it's one of those things, and I'm sorry to report it here, but I feel like I have to report it. I think I'm giving up on Persona 4 Golden.
No.
Wow.
No, Barrett, no.
It's one of those things where it's like when I started it up and like the first half hour is like hanging out with the friends and getting more story. I was like, all right, cool. This is cool. This is what I like. And then like getting into the game, that's when it just like all kind of falls apart for me. And like this is some like Persona 5 again, like to give context, was the first JRPG that I played outside of Pokemon that I was into since I was like 5 years old. So like it's very rare for me to really get into a JRPG. And when you have me go to the last iteration of Persona game where a lot of those quality of life improvements were not there, it's really hard for me. So
Barrett, hear me out. Buy yourself a Vita. Play Persona 4 Golden on Vita and see how
is that going to be any different, Blessing?
Because it's on a great handheld system. You can play it in bed, have a good time with it,
dude.
The way that game shines on that Vita screen.
Phone,
oh my god,
my pretty looking phone with the backbone. It looks great on it. It looks great. It feels great to have in my hand. It's just the game itself is just. I'm sorry, like.
Damn, it hurts.
Maybe it'll be one of those days where I just try to like watch through like because I really like the characters. The gameplay is just it is not worth trying to get through that story.
So I assume then I'm off the hook for not beating Persona 5 because you didn't beat Persona 4, and then we're just like mirror images.
Now we're just in the standstill. Now we're just in the standstill.
Y'all both are
now it's like a ceasefire. No, neither of us can talk shit about each other. I like it.
All right. I like that.
Can we
Barrett, you're free. You're free to do whatever
you finish Persona 4 Golden. Greg, you pick up your notebook and keep on playing Persona 5.
Greg,
do you even know where that notebook is?
Bless, I'm tired of you and your middle ground and playing all the Persona games like an actual fan. Greg, are we shaking hands here?
Yeah,
doing a ceasefire. All right, cool. Thank you.
Ceasefire.
No, I'm fine. I just started blasting both ways. I'm gonna do it.
You're allowed to. You're 100% allowed to, Bless. You did the work. Speaking of the work, ladies and gentlemen, we have a segment called #PSILOVEPHOTOMODE. This is where one of us, me or Blessing, maybe Barrett one day, says, hey, here's what we want you to go take photo modes of in your video games, and then tweet #PSILOVEPHOTOMODE alongside the photo. We then go through and pick our favorites based on the theme. You get to have all the love and adoration of the YouTube viewers. gamers here. I don't think probably the MP3 lovers love it as much, but whatever. You know what I mean?
It's always been my concern with this segment.
I'm
like, do we get to this place?
Hasn't been a week yet where someone has posted on the Reddit, "Wow, Greg and Bless don't care about audio.
Care about the audio listeners."
Yeah, like I don't visit the Reddit that often, but I've always assumed that each week we must get a thread that's like, I listen to audio and I don't like this.
They have a great time. Well, I'm going to start. I, of course, said Avengers, baby. PS5's here. Hawkeye's here. What do you got for me? The first one I have here is Matt you. Matt, you put this one up and said, nice shot of the new guy for this week's hashtag PSILOVEPHOTOMODE. And I agree. That's a great look at Hawkeye and his iconic costume there. Means you did the iconic mission chain. I'm proud of you.
I don't know the name of the guy, but he looks like a guy.
He looks like Cole McGrath.
Oh, he looks a little bit like Cole McGrath for sure, but he looks like this guy who has a podcast that I've seen people talk about.
Dude, that's every other person. Blessing every.
He looks
other
like
person.
every. But like, he looks like every main character from video games from about 2005 to 2010.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks familiar. He has an energy about him.
He looks like Sean Evans. He looks like the hot wing eating guy too.
Yeah.
He does. I can see a little.
He's a generic white guy. He looks like a generic white guy.
Yeah.
I still love my tweet about it's mom said it's my turn to turn on the X.
Yeah, why is this man's head so small? That was great.
It's so small.
He looks so weird in that shot.
The rest of his body, it's fucked up.
I hadn't noticed it till it was there. So I was proud of that. The next one here is from Nick, aka Roy, who put this one. Ms. Marvel, aka Kamala Khan, loved her in the campaign and can't wait to see her geek out when she sees Captain Marvel in person, and use the hashtag there. I like this one. A good use of colors. You know what I mean?
A great one, yeah.
Right. And this is one of the DLC costumes they put out for her, her in a more traditional garment. Love it. I like the colors. I like the way the juxtaposition. I like the clouds. I like that. And it's just all over the place.
Clouds look amazing.
Yeah. And then final is Connor Knowles, hashtag PS I love this photo mode. A bit of a cheap one for me, but it's a fond memory of Kamala Khan at the beginning of Avengers on an A-Day on the helicarrier there, or I guess the Chimera, looking up at the cutouts of the Avengers, and marveling at it. I thought that was such a cool moment for me. What do you got?
Sorry, but Connor Mills tweeted this out, and then someone responded, "Good times," and then he responded, "I'll be honest, this is as far as I could get into this game."
Show it. Expand it. Oh, you did.
It's there. It's there.
Nice. It's right here.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I thought that was such a cool moment, though. A-Day. That's a fucking great tweet. That's a fucking great chain of tweets. I love it. No, man, that's weird. That was like the best stuff of that game. That's as far as you could get. You didn't even get like to any of the actual gameplay.
Hey, this was like the best. It was the best part of this game. And then
One of
I didn't make it
three very good moments in the game. I would say it was this. I don't want to ruin anything else, but like
a lot of people are playing it right now.
Yeah, there are two other good moments in the game. Around
Jonathan Dornbush is playing it right now, and 5 others.
I know. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Blessing is going to tell you what the next hashtag PSILOVEPHOTOMODE is.
I am. This week, a game called It Takes Two comes out on PS4 and PS5. So I'm going to make that the one. I'm sure plenty of people are going to be playing it over the weekend because I think this hits on Friday. And so pick the game up if you plan to play it. Get me those photo modes. I don't know if the game has a photo mode, but if not, take screenshots, send them over. Hashtag PSILOVEPHOTOMODE. You know what to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode of PS I Love You XOXO in the can. Of course, we're not done yet. We're going to head over to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames where you can go to get the exclusive post show we do. Of course, on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, you can get every episode ad free. You could be watching live just like Nika Ashes, D is, Rolas is, Joshy G is. Of course, we love and appreciate you, and thank you for your support. If you don't get it there, you can, of course, get it at youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, podcast services around the globe. No matter where you get it, thanks for supporting PS I Love You XOXO. Right now, we got a post show to do. Time? No. It's been our pleasure to serve you.